It's the mosaic.
So before gloves start popping,
diving, he makes the catch,
and bats start cracking,
it is gone!
We bring you the voice of Bay Area baseball for the past 29 years.
As I always say, baseball reflects what life is all about.
This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Loring.
That's what we do. We talk ball.
On KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to be with you on this Sunday. Good afternoon, everybody, as we get ready for Game 3. What else can happen? My goodness, between the Giants and the Phillies. The Phillies have won the first two, and last night in a driving rainstorm took charge of the game early as Keaton Wynn gets knocked out, two-thirds of an inning for him. He just could not control the baseball last night. Unfortunately for him and for the Giants, and the Phillies went on to beat the Giants last night 14-3 to take the first two games of this series between these two teams. One team that's going in the right direction right now, it's hitting the ball well, and that's the Phillies. And the other team that's not hitting the ball at all, and this has really been the story, pitching has not been that bad. Now, last night, notwithstanding, it was not good last night, but the pitching for the Giants still in those quality starts, they're up there. Earned run average, not great. But, you know, you're going to get a well-pitched game most of the time from the Giants. But, boy, just the offense has really struggled. And it's part of baseball. And I say this on Sunday, you know, I always like Sunday baseball. We get to sit back and sort of reflect on what baseball has been for the past week and where we are in the season and the journey and the mosaic and the cattle drive and all the stuff that I've been talking about for the last 29 years. And really, it's so early in the season. The Giants are 15-19, but they are starting to show a trend here with some age on the roster, and those players are not really producing right now, and that's leading into this problem of scoring runs for the starting staff. And we go back to the last 9 games, the Giants have only scored 22 runs. In fact, the last time they scored 4 runs in a game was April 23rd for today's pitcher, and he's the stopper, and he's Logan Webb, and I see him all the time at the Via Hotel and see his dad, and, you know, he gets the job done for the Giants, but they need him big time today. But when you look at this offense, Jung-Hoo Lee hasn't scored a run in 10 games. You look at Conforto and Soler and Chapman. Over the last 13, 14, 15 games, they've only driven in 2 runs. And that's the meat of the order. Flores got the big home run last night for the Giants, 2-run shot, home run number 150 for him. And congratulations, Wilmer Flores, for getting it done. And Estrada had a big night for him in the series. He's 5 for 9 now. He was 3 for 5 last night. So putting the bat on the ball and getting it done. But the Giants have just got to get that offense going, and they have a chance today against Taijuan Walker. And this is only his second start of the year. He's a big right-hander. He's 31 years old, and he became a Philly last year. Won 15 games. His earned run average was close to 4.5, and the Phillies never trusted him in the playoffs. They never used him the whole time in the playoffs. I remember Taijuan Walker pitching against the Giants. I think the Giants knocked him out like in the first inning. So they have a shot today against this right-hander. He's been hurt, and he's only made 1 start. It was against San Diego, and he went 6 1/3, 8 hits, 6 runs, a couple of homers, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts, and that's been it for him. The Phillies have an interesting problem, and that is they have 6 starting pitchers, and the other one is Spencer Turnbull, who the Giants are not going to see. They're going to get Zach Wheeler tomorrow. And it is going to be a question what the Giants are going to do tomorrow. We'll talk about that on the show today. I have some thoughts about it. I love Randy Rodriguez last night. I thought he pitched great. I thought that arm was there. And I said it on Twitter when they brought him in. I said, in spring training, the scouts all talked to me about Randy Rodriguez. We talked about trading for Joey Bart and all that, and they said, we like Randy Rodriguez, and I could see last night why. In a big league game, this guy has got terrific stuff. If he can get command of that off-speed stuff, the slider and that, it's like Duvall. It's the same kind of pitcher. So he'll probably get sent back to the minor leagues today, probably. They'll probably bring someone up today who's on the 40-man roster, so they'll have an extra pitcher. And then I would throw Sean Jelly out there tomorrow. I know everyone talks about Mason Black and bringing him up, but you'd have to open up a spot on that 40-man roster, and that's not easy to do. You've got Snell, obviously, coming off the DL. You've got Robbie Ray and Cobb a little later on. You can only control 40 players at a time, and you just can't get rid of people that you may need later on. So instead of bringing Mason Black up, I would go with Jelly tomorrow and whoever they bring up today as a backup and see what you can do tomorrow. That's what I would do. But we'll see. We got to get through today first. The other injury was to Tom Murphy. And, boy, we've talked a lot about Tom Murphy, the catcher, and I feel for him. As I said yesterday before the game started, he's rusty. And I don't mean Rusty the mascot that they used to have in right field, that went back and forth. No, not that Rusty. He just hasn't played a lot in the last couple of years. And he really struggled. And he struggled on Friday night with the pass ball and the throw to Hicks at the plate and all that business, just wasn't happening. Well, last night, another wild pitch comes in. The weather was terrible. It was just terrible. I felt for the guys who had to play out there. Look, the Phillies got hurt last night. Ranger Suarez almost had to come out of the game because when he landed, it looked like his calf extended a little bit. And Alec Boehm, who's leading the league in hitting and tied for the league lead in RBIs, their third baseman, 17-game hitting streak, he had to come out of the game in the fourth inning because his hip was hurting him. Well, Murphy for the Giants, he got hurt, and he popped a knee. Something happened, MRI today. Bob Melvin didn't think it was going to be a very good result, so they're going to have to get a catcher up here. And I thought it was Jackson Reitz, who we saw a little bit in spring training. He's got some power. He's a decent catcher, but that's about the only veteran they have, and you hate to get in these situations where catchers get hurt. Because today, and Woe and I will probably talk about this a little bit in a little while, everyone throws 100, 98, 99, and you get so many foul balls. Well, if you get one, as I'm doing this on the stream here, if you're watching me on the live stream, I'm welcome to everybody today. You can do it at YouTube, KNBR Livestream. But you get these foul tips in the mask, and they're coming at 100 miles an hour now. It's not 88, 89 miles an hour the way it used to be. And you have to be prepared with some catching, some veteran catching in the system. And the Giants really don't have that right now. So they've got some issues coming up with a catcher. So we'll have to see what they do today. Blake Sabol is really the backup, an emergency. He got a couple of hits last night. He can swing the bat. We know that. But as far as catching Logan Webb today, that's going to be a challenge for Blake Sabol. Believe me, and the Phillies are going to run like crazy every chance they have. We'll see what they do, even though Trey Turner is still out. So it's Logan Webb today. Suarez gets the win last night. Keaton Wynn takes the loss. He only went 2/3 of an inning. He just could not control the baseball. I saw afterwards someone said he had a sinus headache at some point, and it just wasn't his night. I don't know why baseball forces these games. If you saw any of the St. Louis Cardinal game yesterday, John Brebbia pitching for the White Sox against the Cardinals in the 10th inning. You got to see this online. I ask everyone to look it up. I have never in my whole life seen a rainstorm like I saw yesterday in St. Louis, and they played through it. John Brebbia could not even hold the baseball for the White Sox. And with 2 out and the bottom of the 10th inning, they called it. They said, we need a break. And they waited 3 hours and came back for 4 pitches, and the White Sox ended up saving the game and winning it. But they played in a rainstorm. Last night they played in a rainstorm in Philadelphia. There's no reason for that. You had a day today. You could have had a doubleheader today. You could wait. You didn't have to start the game. Obviously, you wait a couple of hours. You could play later. The weather did clear up a little bit later. I just thought it was a travesty last night. I really do. I thought that was very unfortunate for the Giants last night. All right, so it's Logan Webb today. He is 3-2 on the year with a .298 earned run average. Lefties hitting .305 against him. Righties .244. he's got to control that changeup. And as I said, this is someone we saw in spring training. He struggled a little bit. He's been terrific all season. Not perfect, but they need him to be very, very good today. Runners in scoring position, 256. So he's had a little trouble. But Taijuan Walker, that is someone they've seen before. Estrada 3 for 4 against him. Flores 2 for 7. Soler 3 for 9 with a homer. Maybe something can happen there. Slater probably won't be in there today. He was 1 for 2. Against Logan Webb, Castellanos 3 for 5 with a homer. Harper 2 for 5. And Kyle Schwarber 2 for 4 with a homer. So we'll see what happens today. It's another day. And that's the beauty of baseball. It's the beauty of this part of the season. 34 games. We've got so many more to go. So much can happen. It's a cyclical game. You hit, you don't hit. All of a sudden you hit for 2 weeks. You start scoring some runs, and the ball falls your way. And all of a sudden you win a few games, and everybody feels better again. The Dodgers are still rolling along, 22-13. Evan Phillips, their closer, hamstring. He's on the DL. Everybody's got a hamstring these days. Are these guys not in shape? It's unbelievable. But we'll see the Dodgers come in on the next homestand, and there probably won't be an Evan Phillips closing for them. They do have this Pages, P-A-G-E-S, Andy Pages, the right fielder. They've got another one. The guy's got like 4 homers already, hitting .365 and 65 at-bats. Padres win yesterday. They're 18-18. Giants 15-19. Arizona struggling along at 14-20, and the Dodgers 22-13. Phillies do lead the East, 23-11. Atlanta got walloped by the Dodgers again yesterday. They are 20-11. So that's the story from yesterday. You forget about it. It's a new day today. You got your guy going against Taijuan Walker, and it should be a little bit more in the Giants' favor today. All right, the professor joins us next right here. KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Fans, I'm coming up to the Bay Area to see some Giants baseball. It also means I'm going to see Sonny from A&H Transportation. A&H Transportation, the East Bay's finest, serving the Bay Area since 2007. If you need to be picked up at the airport, it's 24/7. Taken to the airport, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. Whether it's wine tours, concerts, game events, medical appointments, Sonny and A&H Transportation will take care of you just as family would. Give them a call, 925-200-2824. You can check them out on the web, ah4limo.com. Email them, ah4limo@ah4limo.net. Sonny, I'll see you soon. Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship.
Time now to go to Sunday school with the professor.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Giants coach Ron Wotus with Marty Laurie.
I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper.
On your home of Giants baseball.
Good answer. Like the way you think.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Brought to you by River Islands, one of the country's top-selling master plan communities just across the Altamont in Lathrop. Where else can you live on a lake next door to a park or walking distance to your kid's new school? With 10 new neighborhoods, River Islands is the one place you can't afford to miss.
All right, great to have you back with us as we welcome in the professor on this Sunday afternoon. Well, how are you?
Marty, I'm great. How about yourself?
Doing well, and looking forward to the game today. Before we get started, a couple of things. One, tomorrow is Willie Mays' birthday. May 6th, Willie Mays' birthday tomorrow. So I definitely want to wish Willie a happy birthday. And I'm asking you this. You remember the first time you ever met Willie?
Wow. Well, it was definitely when I went to camp with the Giants, and that was a long, long time ago, probably in 1997 or 1998. And, the first time you meet a person like Willie, I mean, look, he's larger than life. Yep. And the greatest ball player of all time, right? So, it wasn't only Willie, but all the Hall of Famers. The Giants have such tremendous history. And when you meet all those guys for the first time, it's a special moment in your life.
Yeah, John Shea had a great article today, again in the Chronicle, about the Rickwood game coming up June 20th to honor Willie, and Willie's reminiscences of his time with the Birmingham Black Barons and what he learned as a kid. Let's face it, you were a young man when you got into baseball. Willie was just a high school kid. Can you imagine this? He was a high school kid, seriously, playing with grizzled veterans on the Birmingham Black Barons, and he would leave school and go on the road trip, and part of his assignment was he had to come back and write an essay about the city that he went to with the team. How about that?
Wow. Well, that's going to be a great ball game. I'm really excited that MLB is going to go back down to Birmingham and honor the Negro Leagues and Willie and all that happened there. So that's exciting. Wish I could make the trip. I won't be there, but it's going to be a great day for Major League Baseball and for Willie, who certainly deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also the birthday today of my son-in-law, Greg. Greg Barmay. So, Greg.
Hey, Greg, happy birthday. Willie and Greg. Same day. I like it.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit. Now, you did some TV last night. You'll do some more TV on NBC Sports Bay Area tomorrow. Well, what could you say about last night? And specifically, look, you've been through this a billion times, the rain. Why does baseball force these games into just almost unplayable conditions?
Yeah, I agree with you. I heard you on the open, and that game shouldn't have been started. That's the thing. Look, we know we're going to play in wet and rainy conditions, but you never want to start the game in that type of weather. And it boiled down to, the radar, the groundskeeper, who they gave a little love on NBC. He kicked the rake up, and he was hustling, and those guys were hustling, the groundskeepers, to get the field in playing shape. But you never want to start a game in that type of weather. So the radar said that it's going to the rain's going to dissipate and slow down quickly, like in 5 minutes. But, of course, it didn't, and that's the problem. So, to your point, why force it? Trust your eyes. How many times, Marty, I don't know if you ever seen the weatherman wrong before, but It happens quite often. So don't start a game in those conditions. Both clubs could have lost their starters in the first inning, and then you're even in a bigger mess. So games shouldn't have been started. They could have waited, and they still could have played it under better conditions. I saw a couple of guys last night. Even the son of the wind, or the grandson of the wind, slipped coming out of the box.
Yeah.
They're lucky nobody else got hurt. Murphy, obviously visually upset. That's a tragedy that we lost him in a game like that, and just a bad day all the way around. The game should have never started.
No, I agree. Absolutely. Well, a couple of things happening. Number one, the stopper goes today. And look, as I say, you've been there for Bum and Kane and Lincecum and, Jason Schmidt and people like that. They need Logan Webb today, and I call him the stopper. That's legit. There is a pitcher on the staff where you say, here's the ball today, give me a win, and that's him today.
You're right, and that's why they're paid, and that's why they're your number one. They need to stop losing streaks. Now, I say need. I mean, you expect them to, and that's why they are the number one guy on your staff. So it's good for the Giants that Webby's on the mound today. Obviously, the pitching's a little beat up. They have a game tomorrow where Snell's not pitching, so they're going to have to piece the game together tomorrow. Yesterday, they used a lot of people, so I'm sure they'll get a fresh arm up there for sure for today's game. But you need them in more ways than one to kind of, halt this losing streak that they're on, and also, get deep into the game. And he's been the one guy that's done it. He's gone 7 innings 3 times. He's gotten to the 8th one other time. And it's a lot of pressure for the number one. But we got the right guy in Logan Webb to do it against a very hot team and a very good lineup.
Yeah, the middle of the order not hitting for the Giants. And I say this, look, what does a manager do at this point? I mean, he's got Soler, he's got Chapman, he's got Conforto, 2 RBIs, for each one of them in the last 13, 14 games. His team has only scored 3 runs, hasn't scored more than 3 runs for 9 games. What does a manager do? Well, what do you do in a situation like that?
Well, the first thing you do is you don't panic. That's number one, and I think the players feel that. You start moving everybody around in the order, or, benching people, playing other guys. It depends what the alternatives, who you have, if you want to make any changes. But I think the whole staff, I think Baumel, the coaching staff, they all believe that these guys are going to come out of it. Look, these guys have track records. It's unfortunate right now that we have several guys that are not feeling good, not swinging the bat the way they're capable. But the last thing you want to do is panic. You might, move a guy in an order, but nothing out of the ordinary. You don't want to make it appear that you're panicking or switching guys from the minor leagues up and down, because you hear a lot about that. Call this guy up, give him an opportunity. You want to keep a steady hand and be confident. You can't let these negative games creep into your psyche. So tighten the belt strap. I know the players are still working hard, and you got to believe in yourself, and you got to pick each other up. Look, as teammates, you got to get rid of these negative thoughts. We're okay. We're going to be okay, and just keep plugging away, and good things will come of it.
Yep, you've been through it before. The professor with us on this Sunday school a little bit. There was a play at the plate on Friday night, a fascinating play with Hicks and Turner scoring. It looked like Matt Duffy, the mad dash from second to the plate. And Turner got in there. Hicks just almost got the tag down. Murphy, the throw was a little wild to the plate. But, boy, that was an exciting baseball play. It didn't go the Giants' way, but give me your thumbnail on that play.
Well, I didn't see it, but I heard it talked about a lot. And, we've seen it happen before. I mean, it's an unfortunate play, whether Hicks was late to the plate. If he was, obviously that can't happen. But we've seen it before with Matt Duffy scoring from second base. I think it was against the Cardinals,
right,
on a wild pitch or a pass ball. And then they showed it on NBC last night. They showed Mike Schmidt scoring from first base.
Come on.
On a pass ball, and Gary Carter was the catcher, and everybody went for the ball. the pitcher and the catcher. He scored from first base. He just kept going, and I'd never seen that before. So, when you play 162, you see games like we had last night, and you see some wacky things, and that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes these things rear their ugly head.
Wow. Now that I think about it, Willie told me a story. Willie Mays said Art Mahaffey, and he was a Philly. See how baseball all makes sense? Art Mahaffey was the pitcher for the Phillies. He tried to pick Willie off at first base. He threw the ball down the right field line. Willie scored from first.
Yeah. I mean, it's someone's not doing their job. Obviously,
yeah, really.
Somebody went to the wrong spot. It's just not like the little league play where the ball's thrown around. 3 errors on one play, they're throwing it all over. But these things do happen, and they shouldn't. The guy shouldn't score from first on any of those plays. They shouldn't score from second on a wild pitch either.
Yeah, you got to cover the plate. Turner saw the plate uncovered. That's when he took off. And look, he's now out for 6 weeks with a hamstring. There's so many injuries. You ever think about this? I watch hockey. And look, you grew up in the East, Northeast. I watched the hockey game last night. They kill each other. The NBA has turned into a street fight now. And then you get football. And then you get baseball. It looks like such a gentle game, and these guys get hurt every single day. Evan Phillips, the closer for the Dodgers, he's out now with a hamstring. How about that?
Well, I think about it almost every day, Marty, because to your point, so many players get hurt, and it's really frustrating. I don't think baseball has figured out completely how to keep people healthy, and everybody has their own opinions. Now, baseball is a lot different than hockey and basketball, and the fact that it's a stop and go game. You're sedentary for a while, and then you got to sprint. For 3 hours. You're everything's sporadic when you do it, so it is a little different. And I think the other thing, I just liken it to my own body. I know there's a lot of weights involved with baseball today, and everybody always wants to get stronger. But, every body is different. I know personally I couldn't lift a lot of weights and play during the season. I just wouldn't have the same touch on my throws. My legs just didn't feel as loose. So I think it's such a delicate balance. And, it's $1 million question, how we keep these guys healthy. I do know one thing. You have to sprint a lot because it's a sedentary game, and if you're not playing every day, you have to get your sprints in. Players have done that for over 100 years to make sure they get their running in, and it's a difficult difficult job keeping these players healthy and on the field.
Boy, it is. And, all these injuries. Look, Murphy's out. And, the other one I want to mention to you is Patrick Bailey, taking the foul tip, whatever, getting blurred vision. He's in the concussion protocol. And I said it in the open. You probably heard it. They throw 100 now. They throw 98. And these foul tips are coming back. They're like bullets coming at you. And, you have to be prepared now when you put your catching staff together that this is going to be an issue for a catcher.
You're right. I mean, look, you got to have depth in the catching department, just like you do in football. You got to have depth in the quarterback department, right? I mean, we saw what happened to the Niners, and they had 4 quarterbacks get hurt. Now, you can't cover every situation. Who anticipates losing 4 quarterbacks or 3 catchers? But we have the minor leagues, and I anticipate that Jackson Reitz will be up today. He's a guy that's been in AAA, had a cup of coffee in the past, and he's our depth right now. And then it gets a little thinner down there, so you'll have Sable. If they call Reitz up, it'll be him, so we'll have that covered. But you're right. The fastball and the masks, they just don't go together. It's good to see Bailey wearing the old style mask that has more cushion instead of the hockey mask, which a lot of guys used to wear, and some of the catchers are getting away from it because it doesn't protect you as much on concussions. And also, Bailey wears that thing around his neck that's supposed to help with concussions as well. I don't know how that thing works, but if everybody noticed, he wears something around his neck, and it's supposed to help with not getting concussions.
Well, Jackson Reitz, he's got some power. I know that. So we'll see. He's, as Wo says, probably coming up today. Interesting, another play at the plate, and I always like to talk a little ball with you. Starling Marte threw out two Cubs at the plate. How about that? In extra innings. I don't know if you saw it, but that's look. You coach third. Starling Marte's got a heck of an arm, but the day before, they had a situation where now the catcher had his foot on the plate, and now you can do that as long as you don't block the lane. So baseball's still a little confusing on what you can do at the plate, Wo.
It really is. And, I did a little digging on this because, I wasn't in camp the whole time. And usually the league comes in and tells you about some new rules or adjustments. So, in talking to Alex Berg, our catching coach, and some other people, the bottom line is this, they're trying to give the umpires a little more judgment on the play at the plate. Now, they prefer that you set up in front of the plate. And the rule reads different in the rule book than it does. The umpires have their own manual, and I had one years ago. I can't remember how I got my hands on it, but their interpretation of rules, it's a little different. It's like their Bible that's different than the actual rule book itself. And I think in their interpretations, they're giving the umpires a little more leeway on making this a judgment call on the play at home plate. And I don't know if this has to do with, the new rule of obstructing the bases or not. But from what I understand, they prefer that the catchers set up in front of home plate, not on the home plate. But you can set up on home plate, but you are risking yourself being called for blocking the plate. Now, my interpretation of what happened the other night, he started on the plate, but the throw took him into the line. And if you're catching the ball, in the act of catching the ball and the throw takes you into the line, you can go ahead and that's legal. But if you're standing on home plate and the throw doesn't take you there into the line, and then you go ahead and block the baseline or get in the baseline before you have the ball, they're going to call blocking the plate. Just like it's trouble. Chaim Bloom did it with Texas. Boch got thrown out last year, but he set up in foul territory. He had his right leg on home plate. His left leg was in foul territory. So instead of setting up in fair, he was setting up in foul territory. And when he caught the ball, he tagged straight down, and they called that blocking the plate last year. So again, I think they want you in fair territory. They don't prefer that your foot's on the base, but if you move into the baseline to catch it, I guess that's why they said he was not blocking the plate on that particular play.
All right, so that's the issue. You got to be catching the ball to move on to the in the lane. That's basically okay.
Exactly, yeah, but it's risky. I still wouldn't have our catcher set up on the plate because every umpire is a little different how they're going to interpret this.
Okay, all right. That's the professor on a Sunday. Very good. Sunday school with the professor. Brian Sabian is going to be in the Bay Area tomorrow. He's being inducted into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, Bashoff. And they have the big dinner tomorrow night, and I think it's fabulous for Brian that this is happening. Well, so I'll ask you the question. Meeting Brian Sabian for the first time, getting to know him, it's so well-deserved. Let's talk a little bit about Brian.
Well, Sabes, I was in the minor leagues when I first met him, and from day one, you could see that this was a serious and very knowledgeable baseball guy. And, when you meet Brian and you're around him for the first few times, you realize he is the boss, right? He's the boss. He's the guy in charge. And, he came over from the Yankees, so he had that pedigree of developing players. He was involved with drafting players, Jeter, Bernie Williams, and all these guys. So when he came to the Giants, there was the, ultimate respect right off the bat. And, of course, what he's done with this franchise, trading our third baseman now, Matt Williams, in his first year took a lot of guts. But he turned this whole thing around, and I'm so excited that he's getting his day in the Bay Area. Long overdue. And, on a personal note, working for Brian, it was just a real pleasure. Brian took care of all of us. He was very loyal to all of us. And, he he took the blame when things didn't go well. There's many times Brian said, hey, it's not your guys' fault. We just don't have the horses. That's on me. So, I mean, you really appreciate when your leader, cares about his people and has that approach. We were all together and had some very good years. So I'm looking forward to attending that tomorrow night.
Oh, good.
Can't
You're
wait
gonna
to
go?
see him. I'm going to go. I'll be there. And Chris Berman is going to induct him. So that'll be fun to see
fabulous.
the big boomer. And it should be a great night.
Ah, fabulous. Very good. Good. I'm glad we brought it up. 10 years we've been doing River Islands. Colleen sent me a note, and River Islands and you and I have been talking about for 10 years. How about that?
That's crazy. Everybody's talking about them now, Marty. I listen to the radio, and everybody's talking about River Islands. So, yeah, we were the first 10 years ago, and it's amazing it's been going that long, and the community continues to grow and make improvements. What are they up to now, Marty?
Well, they have a number of neighborhoods, but the thing that got me when I saw the note, there are 3 schools and the high school opens next year. How about that?
Wow, well, they need it, right? They need that high school. I mean, the population at River Islands continues to grow. They continue to expand. So, that's exciting news for the community. I'm sure they're going to love it, right? You can walk to school, Marty. Were you able to walk to school in Brooklyn? They can just walk to school.
I used to do it in Brooklyn and Miami Beach. I loved it. You could walk to school. Yeah, not in the snow,
nice.
Though. Not in the snow.
No.
All right. Now, Ryan Walker. I don't know if you saw this week. His trade, so to speak, he's a locksmith. So if you ever get locked out of your car, Ryan Walker's the guy to go to. He's a locksmith. How about that?
Great to know. I haven't locked my keys in my car yet, but I'm glad you told me that. I never realized that. I'm going to have to talk to him about those things. I do have some locks at my house I need changed out, so maybe I can get him over.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the locksmith. Ryan Walker. I like him. I like the way he plays. He's a good kid.
Yes.
Good kid.
Yeah, he is.
All right, well, have a good afternoon, and we'll see what happens. Enjoy tomorrow night. I'm really glad that you're going to be there tomorrow. Very good.
Well, thanks, Marty. I'm looking forward to it, as I said, and, it's going to be a great night. There's a lot of other inductees as well, but it's great to see Brian back in the Bay.
Absolutely. All right, more coming up. Thanks, Will. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right, more coming up. Glenn Kuiper next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Hey fans, Gene Bugano checked in from Bodega Bay, and he reports that the nice spring weather continues to provide the setting for a great visit to the Sonoma Coast. Down at the Tides Wharf, the friendly and knowledgeable staff takes great pride in offering only the best seafood available, both for your enjoyment in the restaurant, and don't forget you can purchase in the fish market and take it home. And if you're looking for a little retreat just across Highway 1, the Inn at the Tides with its large, comfortable rooms, all with bay views, is there waiting for you. Gene also wanted me to let everyone know that next week on May 4th and 5th, the annual Fisherman's Festival will be taking place, which is always a lot of fun for everyone. So if you're looking to escape just for the day, or maybe a night or two, remember the Tides Wharf and the Inn at the Tides in scenic Bodega Bay.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talking Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Maybe this.
Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball today. Game 3 between the Giants and the Phillies. The Giants go to their ace today, Logan Webb. He's got to be the stopper, and he goes against Taijuan Walker, 15-game winner last year. Phillies didn't trust him in the playoffs, though. He didn't pitch anything for them in the playoffs at all. He's been injured. He's back. This is only his second start, and that's the setup for today. A pleasure to bring in Glenn Kuiper. Glenn, on this Sunday, how are you?
I'm good, Marty. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Kind of a crazy game yesterday, and let's start with this. Look, you've been around baseball a long time. Why does baseball push these games in rainstorms? Why do they have to do that? Look, the Phillies, Ranger Suarez may have hurt a calf yesterday stretching on the mound. Alec Boehm, who's leading the league in hitting and tied for the league lead in RBIs, he went out with a hip injury. Tom Murphy looks like he could have a serious problem. What is it with baseball in the rain? Why do they do this?
Well, I do think, Marty, that from an umpire's perspective, I think they feel like their most important job outside of, calling balls and strikes and making the calls or whatever is to make sure you get the game in. And that may not sound like the right thing to do when it's raining, but I think they just feel, and I think they're probably told that if they can play, get the game in, because we don't want double headers. We don't want the Giants to have to go back to Philadelphia for a game. And obviously there's a lot of different things you can do. You can play doubleheader today, and that type of thing. But I do think that they are probably told whatever it takes to get the game in, because once it's in, then we don't have to worry about it anymore. And maybe the forecast, I think it sounded like the forecast yesterday may have sounded like it was going to ease up a little bit, but then it never really did. So maybe later in the game. But I think it is very dangerous. And but I just think it's in the umpire's mind. Let's just get this thing done, even if we can get through 5 innings and make it a complete game. But it was ugly for multitude of reasons yesterday, and certainly the rain was one of them.
So now, what do the Giants do? They've got some decisions to make, really. And
you're supposed to ask me easy questions, Marty. Come on.
Well, let me ask you this one. I'll start with this. You know Bob Melvin really well. You've been with him for a long time. You've seen him manage many, many games. What does Bob Melvin do in a situation like this? Look, the team is struggling. They're on a streak now. They're on the road. They're having trouble. They're banged up. What does Bob Melvin do? Does he stick with the course? Does he shake things up a little bit? What is Bob Melvin all about right now?
Well, you can tell in the dugout. I mean, he keeps a pretty calm presence about him. I do, listen, he's probably churning inside. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But he does keep a pretty calm presence. I think you have to when things are going bad. He's been around such a long time. He knows that, listen, these things happen. Even on really good teams, you have a bad stretch where you get some bad luck and you get some injuries. So I think he feels like, as the manager, he needs to stay calm, even though I think it's very, very difficult. I don't recall him being a big team meeting guy. I just don't recall that happening a lot with the A's. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. What I know, and I do know him pretty well, that's not something that he's going to go to a whole lot unless he absolutely feels like it's necessary. Or maybe if he doesn't see effort. And listen, that's not going to be an issue with the Bob Melvin team. These guys are, they're playing hard. They're just not producing, right? So you can't get on guys about that. But this is a tough spot, and it's a tough spot for the front office too, where they really need to get together and work together on really, Barty, this next, 4 or 5 games where you need a catcher, and that catcher's not going to be on 40-man. But you could get Bailey back next weekend, and who's going to pitch tomorrow. So these are important decisions in the short term, but the short term can affect – it is going to affect the 40-man roster and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a hairy situation right now, but there's not a lot of better people to have running the ship than Bob Melvin when these type of spots come in. But he's not happy, and he's grinding, and he's thinking about it when he goes to bed at night. I guarantee it. But you're not going to see it from Bob, and he's not going to get on the players unless he doesn't see effort, and that's certainly not the case at all.
All right. Boy, Glenn Kuiper with us. You know Bob Melvin. I appreciate your insight into him in a very difficult situation right now. Logan Webb gets the ball today. Glenn, I saw him in spring training. You were with me many, many games down there in Scottsdale. We saw him together. He struggled a little bit. His last start struggled a little bit. It's not perfect for Logan Webb, but, boy, they need a big game from him today, and they need innings out of him today.
It's a huge game for Logan Webb, and what they need from Logan Webb is what he does best: pitch deep into the game. That's a tough lineup, man. It's a really good lineup they have now. As you mentioned, a couple injuries with Turner out now, but that Phillies lineup is relentless. So he's got to get through that first inning where sometimes he struggles. That last start, when he's not throwing strikes, it's a little bit odd, and you could tell right away that it was a struggle for him. But he needs a good first inning, get through that inning that's always tough on him, and then he desperately needs to get in one of those Logan Webb grooves, which he's been in up until that last start. But yeah, this is a biggie tonight, Marty, for him and for the team, because you don't know what you're doing tomorrow. And Giants maybe have made a decision on who they're going to start tomorrow, but we don't know. But then you go to Colorado, who knows what's going to happen there. It's a tough stretch. And, this is where Logan Webb, he's the guy I think that you'd want out there, because he does generally pitch deep into games. And he's going to have to be at his best in that ballpark against this lineup. A lineup they're playing great baseball right now, the Phillies. So fingers crossed tonight with Logan Webb, but I can't think of a better guy to have out there.
Well, the issue tomorrow, and Mason Black has been the guy they've talked about. He is from Scranton. And, look, they are playing in Pennsylvania. It kind of, brings him home a little bit. But it would require a 40-man roster move. And I know you've explained this very carefully, and you've done a nice job laying it out for the fans to get him on the 40-man roster, because the Giants also are going to need to get a catcher undoubtedly on the 40-man roster, because Murphy sounds like his knee is banged up. So how do you deal with this tomorrow?
Yeah, I think, it's going to be interesting. And I've been looking. I haven't really seen anything or any rumors of what they may do, but obviously you have to have a catcher called up. And the only catchers that are on the 40-man roster are Bailey, Murphy, and Sable. Well, Sable's already up. So whoever you call up as your second catcher until Bailey gets back is going to have to be added. Well, you add somebody to the 40-man, you have to take somebody off. The only thing you can do to not take somebody off, Marty, is you could put somebody on the 60-day disabled list. And if you're on the 60-day injury list, then you don't count against the 40-man roster. But who are you going to put on the 60-day injury list, right? So you're always worried as a front office about losing a player on the 40-man roster. It's not going to be a player at the major league level, but it's maybe a prospect you don't want to lose. You can look through the 40-man roster, and there's not a lot of players out there that you could say, well, let's let him go and see if he gets through. I guess they go into waivers but they could lose that guy to another team. Well, I'm just looking at the 40-man mark. Who are you going to let go, right?
Yep.
Wade Meckler, Matos, these young guys Casey Schmidt, guys that, Brett Wisely, who's having a good year down there. So, there's pitchers that you're waiting to get healthy. So it's not easy, because you are afraid you're going to lose a player from that 40-man roster that you really don't want to lose, or you take a chance of losing. So this is a tough time with tough decisions for Ron, the front office, and for Bob Melvin. And I don't really know what they're going to do. because, like I said, you look at that 40-man, and there's just not a lot of players that you're going to go, you know what? Are we going to lose him? And, is that going to make a big difference to the big picture at the big league level? I don't know, but you hate to lose a guy if you don't have to. But here, it looks like something's going to happen.
Well, for me, I'm putting Sean Jelly out there tomorrow. I thought on Friday night he looked as good as I've ever seen him look in a major league field, what he threw Friday night. And I'm putting him out there. I'm going to save that 40-man spot. I'm going to try to get Snell back, and I'm not going to upset the apple cart, but I'm throwing Jelly on Monday. How about that?
All right. So you are not digging down into the minor leagues. You're going to try to get by with a start from Jelly, even though he wouldn't be able to go very long.
Yep, I'm bringing him in, and I've got my good bull. Well, hopefully Logan Webb gives you some length today, and if you've got to bring some bullpen guys in behind him, I hope that Rodriguez is still on the team today. To tell you the truth, even though he threw 40 pitches, I thought he looked terrific yesterday. And
he's got the live fastball. He's fun to watch.
Oh, come on, he was terrific. So that's where I'm going with it, and I'm going to adopt your opinion. And that is, it's tough to deal with the 40-man. So let's see. All right, I'm going with Sean Jelly tomorrow. All right, Glenn is with us. All right, let's go to the lighter side of baseball. The Minnesota Twins. Glenn, you've been in Target Field a million times. You've seen the Twins against the A's. They have won 12 in a row, and they're crediting it to the summer sausage.
Summer sausage, yes.
They have a sausage in a package that was sent to Kyle Farmer, one of their players. He didn't want it. They put it on the communal table, and all of a sudden the hitting coach has it in the dugout, and before they get up to the bat, they go to this package and touch it, and then they go and hit, and they've won 12 games in a row since they've done that. The summer sausage and the Minnesota Twins. Come on. How crazy is that?
I don't know what to say about that, Marty. It is working. Good for the Twins with their 12-game winning streak. A couple things initially pop into my head. One, maybe just the overall health concerns.
Yes.
You don't want to leave sausage out too long. But to me, growing up in the Midwest, a summer sausage was a big deal, right? Like,
what is it anyway?
It's just a big, long tube of sausage that, it's good to eat, right?
Okay, all right.
But again, you probably want to refrigerate it. That's my concern. But it does seem to be working for the Twins. And you know what? Baseball players are great, man. If anything works, and I mean anything, they will jump on it and go with it. So give the Twins credit. Although that's a pretty unique good luck charm. And like I said, I'm just a little worried about the health ramifications. But outside of that, good for them. And they are playing good baseball. And I'm surprised, Marty, they've won 12 in a row at this early part of the season. And they're still trailing the Guardians, who continue to play great baseball. So that Central is kind of interesting. I talked about it with Kerry Crowley the other night. It's kind of the American League Central is kind of fun, and nobody thinks much of it. But now you got some young teams that are playing well, and the Twins are playing great.
Wow. Hey, do you like the park, Target Field?
Oh, love it. Top three, I would say, in my book.
Really?
From doing games there, and the park is great. The way it's set up is great. You can walk to the park. It's easy to get in and out of. The press box is great. The broadcast booth is great. So it's one of my top three favorites, no question about it. I mean, they did a really, really nice job there. It's a good atmosphere. People are, very, very nice, good Midwest people. So I love it. I don't know if you've been there, Marty, but it's worth the trip because it's right downtown and it's close to everything. They did a terrific job.
All right. Summer sausage at Target Field. According to the manufacturer, I'm now looking at the article, Cloverdale Foods claims that you don't have to refrigerate it. It's shelf friendly. So
yeah, that's a concern. That's a concern as well, Marty. I would keep it refrigerated, but that's just me.
That's all right. One last thought for you with Glenn. Seattle, the pitching, Glenn, 21 games in a row, something like that for starting pitching, giving up 2 earned runs or less. I mean, come on. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life.
Well, and the guys that they're throwing out there too are, all, pretty young, right? Even Castillo, who's, he's great. But he's generally a fairly young guy. But Gilbert's a stud, and then you get Kirby and Miller. And hey, listen, I mean, they're showing what. If you look at their drafts, Marty, go back like the last 5-6 years, they've spent a lot of very high draft picks, number 1 picks on these starting pitchers. A lot of them college starting pitchers, and it's starting to pay off. And you can really see it. Kirby was a number 1 draft pick. Gilbert was a number 1 draft pick. Emerson Hancock, who's pitched well for them, he's a number 1 draft pick. So they have drafted well, and now they have this rotation of young pitchers with Luis Castillo kind of blended in there.
Wow.
He's been great. And then you get to the Munoz guy, the closer, is just filthy. I mean, the stuff he throws up there is just ridiculous. So, give the Mariners credit. They had a plan. They stuck with it. And now they're starting to play good baseball. I don't know that they're going to score a ton of runs, but you don't have to with, good starting pitching like that. It's kind of what you hope ends up happening with the Giants, Marty, where, the offense, just get to be an average offense, and with good starting pitching, then you can win some games. It's just that Giants offense is below average right now.
Yep. Very well said. Glenn, great to have you on. Enjoy these every Sunday, and I'll see you next weekend.
Thanks, Marty. See you, buddy.
All right, that is Glenn Kuiper. More coming up. KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Fans, nothing better than spending an afternoon at the Priest Ranch Wine Tasting Room in Yountville. You can relax as you enjoy a selection of limited production estate wines paired with local artisanal cheese and charcuterie. Your host will guide you through each unique pairing while sharing the incredible story of Priest Ranch. Now, while you're there, you must try the food at our new restaurant, The Kitchen at Priest Ranch. It's right next door to the Priest Ranch Tasting Room and serves amazing, fast, casual food. That's an afternoon.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us as we get ready for Game 3 between the Giants and the Phillies. Bruce Jenkins, how are you this Sunday?
Hey, Marty, doing okay, thanks.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you something. We're going to see what Bob Melvin is made out of here. This team is struggling right now, and he's been manager of the year a few times, and he's been down this road many times. He's got to keep it together and get this ball club playing a little bit better.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the option of we'll call up some guys who are ready to do this. I mean, there's so many examples around the big leagues. The Dodgers called up a guy named Andy Pajes, and he's like he owns the league already, and he's gonna be
365.
Good.
The guy's he's on fire.
Yeah, Gunnar Henderson, these C.J. Abrams is a little bit older, but kids come up and they just have that look about them, and the Giants don't have those kinds of guys to turn to, at least not now. And I don't want to use the word stuck because they like what they have, but these are the guys. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of platooning, and the catching situation is really out of everybody's hands. It's really unfortunate. Bailey, you can't bring him back any sooner than what's prescribed, and you probably should sit him out a couple more days beyond that, just because he's a catcher. And then Murphy hurts himself, and now they're all of a sudden, what the hell? And where's Joey Bart? And and just it's a little bit of a mess. And of course, it didn't help last night. The Phillies didn't seem to be bothered by the rain, but the Giants definitely did.
No, and I said it earlier on the show today. I don't know why baseball forces these games in rainstorms. I don't know if you saw any of the White Sox-Cardinal game yesterday.
Brebbia.
John Brebbia on the mound in the bottom of the 10th inning, pitching in what to me looked like a hurricane. I've never seen a rainstorm like that in a baseball game, and they just continued on. It was amazing.
Well, he was 1 out away from ending it. He strikes out Mason Wynn, the kid who's playing ahead of Crawford for the Cardinals at short. He's 1 out away. It is a downpour, but I mean they're playing. All of a sudden, then they call it, and 3 hours later they resume. And of course, Brebbia is not out there anymore, so he had a save that he was 1 out away from getting, but he could certainly use. And that was a very bizarre situation.
Well, then C.B. Buckner, who's the umpire, punches out the last hitter on a ball that's probably 2 feet outside to end the game. Come on. You can't script it. You can't script this stuff.
No, you can't script baseball, Marty. That's the beauty of it. Sometimes it's kind of ugly, too.
Well, it's amazing. A lot going on in baseball. Luis Arraez. We talk about him a lot, and a 2-time batting champion. He got traded to the Padres. Padres are starting to hit the ball, Bruce. Profar is having quite a season here. But for me, Arraez, 4 hits yesterday in his debut, and he looked like Tony Gwynn. It was the magic wand with the bat.
Yeah, they focus on his eyes during one of his at-bat, and as he steps in, he's scanning the field. He's particularly looking down the left field line to see what's going on there. And sure enough, he peppers the ball down there. He got 2 hits to left, 1 to center, and 1 to right in his first 4 at-bats. The guys on the bench, it's so good that they have to laugh. It's just so amazing to watch this guy hit. He showed up hitting 299. I'll guarantee you he'll never be in the 200s again this year. He'd be closer to 350 than the 290s. And, I mean, to me, the Padres were a good hitting team from the beginning, just to look at their lineup. But with Profar and Cronenworth going off like they are, It's especially good to have Tatis and Machado both look great, and they're totally invigorated by Arise. So if whatever they're going to do, they're going to hit their way to it. It's not going to be their pitching staff, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. We've followed Arise quite a bit, and it was interesting to see 4 hits for him yesterday. Aaron Judge gets thrown out of a game yesterday. I don't know if you saw this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
He basically said, I guess he must have said the magic word, whatever that may be, but essentially he said, hey, the pitch was outside, and he walked away. Next thing you know, he was thrown out. But made me interested, as captain of the Yankees, the last captain to get thrown out was Mattingly in 1994, and Jeter never got thrown out. So I guess if you're captain of the Yankees, you get a little more play.
Yeah, you do. And, for me, when somebody gets thrown out, I kind of want them to have made a scene,
Yes.
To show up the umpire and kind of really kind of create your own little commotion there. And if you're walking away, I have a hard time with that. I guess he said one thing, the umpire said this, he had one thing that he said really struck a nerve, and I guess, so there has to be a line that you can't cross. But if you're walking away, that's tough for me.
I guess so. It seemed that he's such a nice guy, Aaron Judge, and he was even smiling whenever he said whatever he said. He said it with a smile, basically. So if you bought a ticket to come to the game to see that, well, at least it was late in the game, then they threw him out.
Right.
You can't be happy about that. Let's talk Logan Webb for a second. There's so many stoppers in baseball and so many great pitchers. He's got to kind of be that for the Giants today and give them some innings. They'll probably bring up a fresh arm. And I like Jelly for tomorrow and a fresh arm behind them. But Webb has got some pressure today to give him a game.
Yeah, they need him to go deep. I mean, they weren't expecting last night, wins out of the game in the first inning down 4-zip. Yeah. And the next thing you know, it's a bunch of relievers getting out there, and almost everybody got in. Not everybody, but they used a lot more relievers than they wanted to. And, they need to get back to some stability today. Webb's certainly the guy to do it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into the 8th inning. And we'll see. The Phillies are an awfully tough team. But, tomorrow is going to be interesting. As good as Jelly looked in relief the other night, I'm not really sold on him being a rotation guy yet. But what about Mason Black? Would he have a shot at coming up, or?
Well, you got to deal with the 40-man, so they're going to have to.
Exactly.
Murphy's going to go on the DL, I would assume today. The catcher will come up. That's that spot. Then to bring Mason Black up, you've got to open up one of your 40-man spots, and you really don't have any right now. And you're going to get rid of somebody just to give Mason Black 1 or 2 starts because Snell is coming back. So I think you may just have to sort of bite the bullet on it and go with Jelly and maybe a live arm that they bring up today and hope that Webb can get you into the 7th or 8th inning and your bullpen is still somewhat intact for tomorrow. So my answer is no Mason Black tomorrow. That would be my answer.
Who's going to be the backup catcher?
Well, Jackson Reitz is going to do the catching. And Sable, I imagine, would be the backup. Sable can hit, but look, he's going to have trouble catching. Well, maybe Reitz will catch Webb today. I don't know. But, Webb had trouble throwing to Sable already. I remember that there was an issue last year, wasn't there, with throwing to him?
There was. And Reitz, he's 28. He played a little for the Nationals a couple of years ago. He actually backed up Sable in Sacramento, so he's not expecting anything necessarily. But it's a tough situation and one they definitely did not expect. And meanwhile, Joey Bart's in Pittsburgh, and they sent down Henry Davis, the guy that Bart was playing behind. This is a number 1 overall pick, or very high pick in the draft, a can't-miss guy who all of a sudden couldn't hit, and he's in the minors. I thought, well, geez, is that Joey Bart going to take that job? And all of a sudden they bring Yasmani Grandal off the injured list, so he's going to be the Pirates catcher.
Yeah. There's a real issue for this, and it's an emergency situation. The Giants really didn't prepare it perfectly because of the possibility of a catcher being hurt and Bart being gone. Sure. Who is your guy? So now that's a situation that we have now. Bruce, but it is early in the season. And look, Muncie hit 3 homers yesterday. The Padres all of a sudden are revitalized a little bit. Arizona may be getting Eduardo Rodriguez back. They've got all sorts of trouble. I think they're really in trouble. But it's still very early. It's only game 34, and we have to keep that in mind, don't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, Arizona, absolutely. I mean, they've been missing Alec Thomas, and this closer Sewald's been out. Perdomo, the shortstop's been out. Rodriguez, as you mentioned. You know, they just want to get that rotation intact where they have Gallen and Montgomery and Rodriguez and Kelly. It's a good rotation. They'd be a little bit closer to the Giants in that regard. But Carroll's not having a great year. Marte's been the guy for them. But yeah, they're really struggling. But like you say, I mean, it's a long season, and that team has you know, they had the knowledge of having played in the World Series last year. They went a long way to get there. So they're going to be scary at some point.
Yeah, and you got to pitch, and the Giants still have that rotation, and they have the decent bullpen with the leverage guys. It's as we've said it all show today. You got to get the offense going, and baseball's cyclical. It does happen. How about the A's? You want to talk about Bay Area baseball? Come on, John Shea. I thought he was going to jump out of the press box yesterday, writing the article about the A's scoring 20 runs.
Well, you know that they're 17-17 now. They're 4.5 games ahead of Houston. They're in third place. They're a game and a half out. They've won 6 in a row, and 20 runs. They're still on the climb. I mean, the main point is 2 things. You know, they're playing good ball, and they just always seem to bring up guys. Oh, this goes back so far. Low payroll. What are they going to do? Next thing you know, they sneak into the playoffs somehow, and then they all leave, and they bring up some more guys that they've scouted and drafted, and they can play. And we're right back there again. This was a really drastic situation because there weren't going to be any playoffs. You know, with the way John Fisher dismantled that club. I mean, it looked like they would be just horrible, you know, until the end of time. But sure enough, they've got guys who can play, and they're playing.
Come on, the kid yesterday gets his first 2 major league hits, and they're home runs.
Out of the park.
Come on. You know, I was thinking back to Campy Campaneris, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he was that good.
Yeah.
And Campy's first game, he had just come from Cuba and had a long trip. He was one of the last players to come from Cuba. I think Campy and Tito Fuentes maybe were right at the end of it. And they put Campy in. Wayne Causey got hurt, and they put Campy in the game. He hit 2 homers in his first game off Jim Cott for the A's. And
I do remember him hitting 2 homers. And he had one big homer year, but he wasn't a homer guy, but he was a little guy, but he was explosive. You know, on the bases, he was exciting. He had a ton of power in that little body, and every now and then he'd just jack one.
So Bay Area baseball, you know, what a story. You got the Giants, you know, with great pitching, and you know, you're hoping that it stays together. You've got the former A's manager managing the Giants. You got the A's on their way to Sacramento, where the Giants farm team is. And you got the A's scoring 20 runs and the Giants getting beat 14-3. How about that?
Yeah, you know, when there was this talk about where would the A's play in the interim before if they get to Las Vegas, and the Giants were an option sort of for a while, and I thought, geez, that's not that good of an idea. If you give the A's 40 games at the Giants Park, but what if for some reason the A's are really fun?
Right.
And the Giants aren't, which is exactly where we are right now. And the A's, I don't know if they'd be outdrawing them, but they'd have as much attention. And all of a sudden, you know, they're in your park, and a Cross Bay team is outdoing you.
This is something like out of 1880. Really, this is crazy. What is going on?
I was going to say 1780, but that's a little early.
Or maybe 1580. But tomorrow night, Brian Sabean gets inducted into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. As Will said, Will be there tomorrow night, and Chris Berman is doing the introduction. What a night for Brian Sabean. It's so well-deserved. And, Bruce, in my opinion, he is a Hall of Famer in Cooperstown as well. I'm really glad for him for tomorrow.
Well, he's absolutely a Hall of Famer. I mean, when he was in the Yankee organization, he was kind of in charge of the minor leagues and the scouting and the development, and those are the teams that brought up Jeter and wound up winning a whole bunch of stuff. He was highly regarded with them, and he was a big scorer for the Giants. And, you know, didn't get off to the right foot with the controversial trade, but obviously that he knew what he was doing. I'm not an idiot, as he said, but the way he presided over the Giants, it was so fun to be around him. It's not like we chatted him up every day. He wasn't hanging around looking for an interview. He sometimes you'd see the sort of looming off the side of the dugout. He looked like an underworld guy. He looked like a gangster, really. But that was
great.
good. I mean, he didn't look like Farhan Zaidi, I'll tell you that. But he was just he really knows the game.
Different world.
And he and Boshi knew the game and saw the game and felt the game the same way. And they could get together after the game and chat about it and then figure out the next day. And they were just on the same page, and they made so many great decisions. And those are such good years, and they come back to memory now with Sabian getting honored here and there. And it didn't end great for him, but I mean, hell, his track record is so spectacular that it's a Hall of Fame resume for sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad for him, and I'm glad he can get that recognition. It's important to be able to do that. One last thing. This is a very special month. It honors the Asian American Pacific Islanders this month, and they had a clip on Quick Pitch this morning about Hideo Nomo pitching a no-hitter at Colorado. And they showed the clips of that game honoring Nomo, of course, the Japanese player coming over in the mid-'90s. How about Hideo Nomo? We forgot how good this guy was.
Yeah, it was great to hear Vin Scully's voice on that call. But
wasn't it?
Yeah, he came up and he was really the first great Japanese pitcher. It all started with Masanori Murakami with the Giants, well before that, mid-'60s. But Nomo comes over. He's got a very distinctive delivery, which I always enjoy. He pitched some big games. He was topped off by the no-hitter. He was a bit of a phenomenon. It wasn't quite like Fernando Valenzuela, mania, but it was a big deal. It's a typical Dodger thing where they get this guy who's a big personality and gets a nationwide attention, and he had a real good career.
Oh, and plus I'm doing it on the live stream. People can see me. The wind-up. Remember?
Yeah.
And he would stop.
Oh, yeah, it's a very distinctive windup, yeah.
He would stop at the top. All right, see, I act now on the live stream. They can see me, so I can do that. All right.
Yeah, let's see your windup while we're at it.
The windup of the show. That's about it. So we'll see what happens. We got the game tomorrow. Zach Wheeler. We'll see what the Giants do. Then it's 3 in Colorado. And then next weekend we get the Ellie De La Cruz show here. So it's a good time for baseball, and there's so much more to go. It'll be fun. Yeah,
we have Reds and the Dodgers on that homestand. That's going to be killer. That's really going to be fun.
Yeah, they got to start scoring some runs here. The grandson of the Wind has got to score some runs. He hasn't scored a run in 10 games. He's got to do something.
The great grandson is. He's not. It's too calm for him. There's not enough wind in the. That's the whole problem.
He's got to score. All right. So we'll see what happens today. Bruce, have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
All right. That's Bruce Jenkins. Coming up next, again, I'm on the live stream here at KNBR. You go to YouTube and KNBR live stream, and I'll show you the book, Under Jackie's Shadow, Mitchell Nathanson. And we're going to have Mitchell on the show next, and it's really a good book. It's Voices of Black Minor Leaguers, Baseball Left Behind. So it's not just the great African-American players who got to the big leagues. It's the ones that necessarily didn't get there, and their story. And it's really good. You're going to enjoy this. So we'll take a break, come back with Mitchell Nathanson right after this.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Fans for great baseball gear, check out Baseballism. The store is located at 3rd and King opposite the ballpark. Whether it's jackets, shirts, hats, you name it, Baseballism is the most unique store I've seen. It is the best. 3rd and King, right opposite the ballpark. Fans, just like baseball, Georgie Brothers Furniture is full of tradition as they've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. Still a third-generation family-owned furniture showroom. Their talented staff work as a team to help their customers select the best pieces of furniture to invest in. The 50,000 square foot showroom is full of over 150 wonderful manufacturers. One of the most popular furniture lines I love and own is Stressless chairs. Stressless makes all kind of high-quality furniture, including sectional sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the classic Stressless chair and ottoman. Now, starting March 29th and running all the way through May 28th, there is a great sale on Stressless furniture right here at Georgie Brothers. Visit the Stressless Gallery today. You'll find something that you love. That's Georgie Brothers in South San Francisco since 1933, the best source for home furnishings, or visit them at georgiebrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember, tell them that Marty sent you.
Our Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball, now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for more of Giants baseball. A pleasure to bring in Mitchell Nathanson. He's been in our show before, and he's got a new book out. It's called Under Jackie's Shadow, and it's put out by Nebraska. An outstanding book, and let me tell you about Mitchell, refresh your memory. He's a professor of law in the Jeffrey S. Morad Center for the Study of Sports Law at Villanova University School of Law. He's the author of several books, including Boughton, The Life of a Baseball Original. We had him on for this one, God Almighty Himself, The Life and Legacy of Dick Allen, and A People's History of Baseball. Mitch, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good. Glad to have you back. Tell us about this latest one, Under Jackie's Shadow. How did this one come about? It's the voices of black minor leaguers, baseball left behind. Tell us the origin of this one for you.
Well, actually, this one grew out of God Almighty Himself because in that book, I wrote about a player, Mickey Bowers, who was in the Phillies system. I didn't know who Mickey Bowers was. I had never heard of him. He only played a year or so in low minors in the Phillies system in 1970. And in the course of researching the Allen book, I came across a scouting card, which is one of these things that like the minor league managers will fill out a card at the end of each season. They send it off to the farm director, and then I guess they make their decision as to what happens to these players next year. And there was a reference to Allen in Mickey Bauer's card, and it said something like Dick Allen was his hero and his role model, and Bowers will fight for his rights. And there was another comment that said, well, we as an organization don't need another Dick Allen, so be careful of Bowers. And then the Phillies ended up ultimately releasing Bowers, even though he had hit over 300 that one year he played. And so I mentioned that in the book, and I didn't speak to Bowers for the book. I didn't think it was that, the story was about Dick Allen. It wasn't about Mickey Bowers. And ultimately, I got in touch with Bowers, or Bowers got in touch with me, and he mentioned that, the story of Allen was what it was, and I wrote about Allen's the issues he had, the treatment he had in Little Rock when he was coming up in the early 60s in the Phillies organization. And Bauer said, all well and good and everything, but, you have to understand Allen was a star, and he was a bonus baby, and the Phillies had a lot invested in him. And even though they didn't treat him very well, they still were invested in his future, and they had a vested interest in making sure he advanced. But he's like, what about people like Mickey Bowers, like me? I was good enough to play professional baseball, but I was not a Dick Allen talent. And there's a lot more of us than there are of Dick Allens out there. And those guys, or players like Bowers, he was saying, we kind of get flushed out of the system, and nobody ever hears of us. And nobody ever knows what happens to us. They don't even know we existed, and nobody ever tells our story. And so that's how this started. And he very badly wanted to talk and tell me about what happened to him in the organization and professional baseball. And so we talked, and I realized that he was right. That he did have a very interesting, compelling story. And at the end of our conversation, I asked him if there were other players that had similar stories or other stories, and he said, sure. And he put me in touch with a couple other guys, and that's how this happened. And then I ended up interviewing a bunch of players from about that time period, the 60s and the 70s, who all played minor league ball. A couple of them got a cup of coffee in the bigs, but most of them didn't. And it's a story of, in their voices, in their words, from their perspective, what they had to deal with in order to play professional baseball. And this is mostly a quarter of a century after Jackie Robinson had integrated the game, whereas most people may have assumed that the segregation issues in baseball were over when Robinson integrated baseball in 47. But these guys were testament that they weren't. And to some extent, they're still going on. So anyway, that's how this started, and I thought it was a worthy project, and I learned a lot doing it.
Well, you sure did. Mitchell Nathanson is with us. The book is Under Jackie's Shadow, Voices of Black Minor Leaguers Baseball Left Behind. Let me read a little bit of what's on the back cover of the book, and it'll give everyone an idea of what you just said. What was it like to be black and playing in Spartanburg, North Carolina in 1965, or Memphis, Tennessee in 1973? What was it like to play for white coaches and scouting directors from the Jim Crow South who cut their professional teeth in the segregated game before Jackie Robinson ushered in the sports integration? Or to be called into the clubhouse with your black teammates one spring training morning in 1969 and told that to make the ball club you'd have to beat out the black men in that room because none of you were ever going to beat out the white player, regardless. Or to spend a staggering 8 seasons playing A-ball in the Midwest League, even winning a Triple Crown while watching less talented white teammates get promoted each year while you stayed behind. Mitch, you interviewed over a dozen players in this book, and it really comes through, and it made me think of something of this era, because we think 25 years after Jackie Robinson things would be different, but in the 60s, spring training was terribly segregated. It wasn't until Bill White and Bob Gibson and a few others really made big complaints about it that it changed. And this is right in the middle of that era, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And as one thing that people don't realize, or they might not connect all the dots, that spring training was segregated, but then the big club went north. But there were minor league clubs down there. And the players who were assigned to those clubs, they were still there. and they had to deal with the realities of being down there. And so that's one thing. But the other thing that I learned and I found somewhat surprising was that this sort of thing happened everywhere. It wasn't just the South. It happened in California. It happened in Idaho. It happened in the Northeast. It happened in the upper Midwest. It was everywhere. And it may have been more up front down south. And a few of the players I spoke to mentioned that when they were down south, the segregation and the racism was really up front. There was a whites only and coloreds only signs and things like that. And they said, well, when you got up north or when you went out west in the Midwest, you didn't see those signs, but it was all assumed. And if you broke one of these unwritten or unspoken rules or crossed an unspoken barrier, you heard about it, or you might have gotten 5 guys come after you and try to beat the hell out of you. And so this was going on everywhere. And a lot of these guys that I spoke to, they grew up in middle-class houses, neighborhoods, and a lot of them said that they didn't really experience all that much racism and segregation as children. It was only when they entered the world of professional baseball that they saw it. And it didn't matter where they went. Some of them went to Florida, and it was rough down there, but others were in Idaho and Iowa and California, and the same things happened there.
The one of the interesting chapters is about Hank Aaron's cousin, Will Aaron. I never heard of him, but after reading his story, I'm sure going to remember him. Tell us about Will Aaron.
Yeah, so when I got in touch with him, I didn't realize he was Hank Aaron's cousin. I didn't make the connection. In fact, in speaking to him, it was probably several hours before he mentioned that he was Hank Aaron's cousin, and so then that made it all more surreal to me, because a guy who was coming up in the 60s and 70s who was Hank Aaron's cousin, you think he might, if anyone would get treated a little differently, it would be a guy like that, but he didn't. And the thing that stood out to me about his story was that he was a little guy. He's not big like Hank Aaron, although Hank Aaron wasn't huge. But Will Aaron was about 5'8", 5'9". He was a middle infielder, second baseman, shortstop, third baseman. And he was drafted as a middle infielder. But then as soon as he got drafted and he got assigned to a minor league team, they moved him into the outfield. And he said this happened all the time with many of the black players. No matter where they got drafted, they got pushed to the outfield or they got pushed to the corners, first or third. First, not third. And he said, a lot of this positional segregation is hurting these players' ability to advance because, as he said, I was a 5'8", 5'9" guy. I was a good defender and a good hitter, but once you move me to the outfield, I'm no longer competing with guys like Roger Metzger. I'm competing with guys like Dave Winfield. And he said, I couldn't compete. I don't have the power to compete with Dave Winfield. And so at the end of the season, he would be told he wasn't meeting his benchmarks, and his response would be, well, of course, I'm not an outfielder. I'm an infielder. And he kept trying to move back to the infield. They kept moving him back there. He finally was able to. He played in the Orioles and the Cleveland Indians organizations, and he finally was able to work himself out of the Orioles organization into the Cleveland organization, where he was told he would play second base, and it took all of about a week before the farm director showed up and said, "Move that guy to the outfield," without even seeing him play.
Yeah, boy, what a story. Here's the book. If you're looking on the live stream, it's Under Jackie's Shadow, Mitchell Nathanson. It's put out by Nebraska. David at the Book Tree up in Montclair has got it, and I would go up there and order it from the independent bookstore. But it's really a good story. It made a lot of sense to me, especially with the Rickwood game coming up and how black players were treated in the 60s, because you have a situation where, as he just explained with Will Aaron, you're a shortstop. Well, you're not a shortstop anymore. Now you're an outfielder. You better hit like an outfielder. And that's what they did all the time. So, we celebrate the legacy of the Negro Leagues, we celebrate Willie Mays and everything else, but these books are important to explain how things were in those days. Well, Sandra G. has sent me a text, and I can hold it up right there on the stream. The Giants made the following roster moves today. Dalton Jeffries is back from Sacramento, so he is on the 40-man. He's the live arm who's back. Mitch White has been designated for assignments. That opens up a 40-man spot. And Mitch White just really didn't have much when he pitched here, unfortunately. Jackson Reitz has been selected from AAA Sacramento, and he will get the 40-man spot. I would imagine that Mitch White just opened up. And Tom Murphy has been placed on the 10-day injured list with a left knee sprain. So he's not on the 60. He's on the 10-day list. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. If they don't need Dalton Jeffries today, maybe he goes tomorrow with Sean Jelly, like I said, and we'll see how that works out. So interesting moves for the Giants. Interesting moves that they've had to get involved with here to get past what happened last night in Philly with the rainstorm and everything else and the injury to Tom Murphy. So Dalton Jeffries is up. We've got Sean Jelly possibly tomorrow for a couple of innings. And Dalton Jeffries is back, and we'll see what he can do. But Logan Webb is the guy today. That's what the Giants need to happen. All right, more coming up. Joe Sheen is going to join us. He's got the best newsletter out there, and we have him on every couple of weeks to talk about baseball. And I looked at the league leaders today before I go throw it to Joe. Alec Boehm, 364. Betts, 360 hitting-wise. Quan, 353 of Cleveland, the kid from Hayward. He's playing great. Profar, how about this? Jurickson Profar, 347, and Will Smith, 347. But we'll talk to Joe about this. Trout, 10 homers. Gunnar Henderson, 10. Ozuna, 9. O'Neill, 9. And Sal Perez, 8. That's it. That's it for the big home run hitters. Offense is down. That's my point. And no team epitomizes that more than the Giants right now. Offense is down in baseball, and we'll talk to Joe Sheehan and figure out why and see what his picks were for today. He does that very, very enjoyable gaming letter. It's joesheehan.com. All right, more coming up. KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader. Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter. All right, nice to have you back with us. Pave Fine Jewelry, Michael Enlick, they celebrate their 40th anniversary, and I can't thank them enough for their support of the show for all these years. And, boy, if you're looking for family heirlooms or things for special occasions, and we've got graduations and proms coming up and all that, Pave Fine Jewelry in the Rockridge area of Oakland. Yeah, absolutely. Let me mention about Bridge Bank as well. We always appreciate their support. Bridge Bank delivers their clients full relationship banking, including treasury management solutions and global market services. Bridge Bank offers financing solutions to businesses for their working capital, equipment, and real estate needs. Fred Voss, our good friend, is the Senior Managing Director of Bridge Bank's commercial lending efforts in Northern California. He has commercial teams, banking teams in San Jose, Jesse Garcia, San Francisco, Oakland, Cheadle, Cordova, and Pleasanton. We can't thank Bridge Bank enough for what they do. Joe Sheen joins us, and as I said, and I've said this so many times, the best newsletter out there. And Joe, would love talking baseball with you, joesheen.com. Joe, how are you?
Good, Marty, but I'm wondering now, if you get your partner jewelry for an anniversary, what do you get a jewelry store for its anniversary?
Absolutely. You go in and you thank them and you buy a pair of earrings. That's what you do. That's what you do, and you say, I'm here because of Marty Lurie. But we love Pave. I've got so many things over the years from Pave. Good man, Michael Enlick. Very quick story. You know, when I started the show, it's all me. And, you know, I sell the ads myself, and it's all, you know, my creation. And I never knew Michael and walked in, told him about my show, and he sponsored me from day one. So that's why we love him.
That's fantastic.
That's Michael. All right, Joe. I said this before you came on. You know, I'm looking at the league leaders in RBIs and home runs, and they don't change much over the weeks. You know, I'm still looking at Ozuna with 32, and Mike Trout still has 10 home runs, and Gunnar Henderson 10. Where did all the offense go? What happened here?
That's one of the great mysteries right now, Marty. You know, we've got more information on the performance of the baseball than we've ever had before. MLB actually publishes the drag signatures for the baseball. What I mean by that is how well the ball flies in the air after it's hit. And we've seen that bounce around in recent years. If you look at the early data for 2024, it doesn't seem to be much different than 2023. But you watch the games, and it does seem like, in addition to the stats that I'm noticing too, I mean, the numbers are there, the balls just aren't really jumping off the bat. Now, we can talk about early season weather, but you know, we're almost 6 weeks into the season now. Not all the games are played in cold weather, but the numbers are really bad. The league's hitting under 240 as of this morning, slugging right around 380. These are some really bad numbers. I mean, on-base percentage is incredibly low, and it's hard to drive in runs if guys aren't on base. One of the things we know is that MLB has changed the handling of the baseballs. They used to come out of the humidor maybe 5 hours before the game. Now they're put back in the humidor. And remember, every park has a humidor now. It's not just Coors Field. So there may be something to where the increased use of the humidor, the way the humidor gets used more, the balls are stored in the humidor closer to first pitch, may be affecting the performance of the baseball. We can look at a lot of things. Pitchers stop throwing fastballs. Fastballs are down around, four-seam fastballs are down around 30% of pitches thrown. Every fastball that's, how do I put this? Every time a pitcher chooses to throw something other than a fastball, offense gets lower. Runs come out of the league. Most of the offense in the game comes on fastballs. So there's that. There's the performance of the baseballs. I got to tell you, Marty, I don't think the league is necessarily looking to do anything about this. I think they're happy with the way things are going.
Boy, you know, you bring up a great point because in the Red Sox series now, Andrew Bailey is the pitching coach for the Red Sox. They don't throw fastballs, and the Giants couldn't hit them. Everything was breaking stuff, and the Giants didn't go the other way with it, so to speak. They're still trying to pull some of this stuff because they're geared up for the fastball. And the Red Sox, if you look at the way whether they're first or second, aren't they in ERA and in all of baseball, they don't throw fastballs.
Right. They're at the forefront of this. They've accelerated the change this year with, you mentioned, the hiring of Bailey. But across the league, you see this now, too. And, you know, it used to be you basically got a major league job as a hitter based on how well you could hit the fastball. This is, 100 years of baseball history. And now with four-seam fastballs, your basic country hardball slipping out of the game, and it being a successful strategy, you pretty much have to be able to hit the breaking stuff now to stay in the majors. I mean, that's a much harder thing to do, especially when you consider how engineered these pitches are now. Teams using the high-speed cameras to be able to say, okay, use your finger pressure this way, twist your wrist just this way. Teams have become incredibly good at the architecture of this breaking stuff. So it's a bad time to be a hitter, Marty. It's a good time to be talking about this stuff, but it's a very bad time to be a hitter.
Well, Logan Webb goes to, maybe I shouldn't feel that badly about the Giants. Their on-base percentage is .306, and they're slugging about .367. Maybe it's not as dramatically bad as I think.
Well, when you look at the adjusted stats, something like weighted runs created, which you can get from Fangraphs, it shows that the Giants are actually only 3% worse than the league average. That's a shock to me. If you think about, the numbers that you just said, adjusted for Park only being 3% worse than the league average. The other thing to look at here is it's not just the whole season. When we talk about the Giants, we're talking about how poorly they've hit recently. I had a reader point out to me, they haven't scored more than 3 runs in a game since April 23rd. And there's not look, it's not 1968. We can talk about how bad offense is, but you need to score more than 3 runs a game to win. They're 3-6 in that stretch, which is actually probably above what you'd expect. But there's certainly the offense that's the problem right now.
Let's talk a little bit about this mishmash of teams. And I said this yesterday on the show. You've got Atlanta. Now, they're getting pasted by the Dodgers all weekend long. Ohtani hit another home run today. But you got Atlanta, you got the Dodgers, you get the Phillies, you get Milwaukee, and then you get the Cubs. We'll put them there because they've separated a little bit. And then you get about 7 teams with either 16 to 19 losses. How do you view those guys?
Yeah, early in the season, I'm still largely sticking to my preseason projections for teams. If you look at the guys who do the hardcore projections, guys like Dan Szymborski with Fangraphs, they'll tell you that really until the middle of the season, player projections are a better predictor of what's going to happen than what the player has done to date. That it operates for teams as well. Only in the case of injuries or, you look at the Marlins. The Marlins are now going to be a lot worse because they've had a lot of pitching injuries and now they've traded their best hitter. So, we're going to see some changes. But in that, as you call it, mishmash, the only team I'd say I've really moved on are maybe the Padres. Obviously they picked up Arias. Jackson Merrill's, been an average center fielder, getting on base for them. That's helped them a lot. That was a real hole for them. The bullpen's been considerably better than I thought it was going to be. So I think they might have moved to the front of that group of wild card teams. And the Phillies. Remember, I had the Phillies winning 95 games at the start of the year. They looked very good. Obviously, they've beaten you guys up. I think that their depth in pitching in a year where everybody's hurt, the Phillies actually have 6 average or better starters, and you just don't see that anymore. They're trying to figure out now what to do with Spencer Turnbull. I guess you guys will get Walker tonight.
Right.
They got him back off the IL. I don't know if they're going to use Christopher Sanchez and Turnbull in a tandem. But for a team to actually have 6 good starters in 2024, that's a bevy of riches.
Boy, look at all the injuries, though. Turner, 6 weeks. Alec Boehm in the rainstorm last night tweaks the hip a little bit. I haven't seen the lineup today, whether he's in it or not. But so many injuries. Evan Phillips for the Dodgers, a closer. He's got a hamstring. It seems like the injuries are all over the place.
I feel like I've been talking about this for my entire career. And it's not – you mentioned Boehm and Turner. It's not just the pitchers. The White Sox have had a bunch of injuries. The Red Sox were down their entire infield at one point. They got Vaughn Grissom back. This is the billion-dollar question in baseball. How do we keep these guys healthy? The NBA has done it by only playing its best players, 65 times a year. MLB teams can't afford to do that, especially with position players. Rest is regarded as an important thing now, but teams are only carrying 4 bench players. One of them's got to be a backup catcher. So you just don't have the flexibility to maybe give these guys as much rest as they need. But I know, a lot of smart people trying to figure out how do we keep these guys on the field. Teams are now putting more money into their health. There's a term I'm blanking on. But keeping these guys on the field, stretched out, healthy, taking minor injuries seriously. But it doesn't seem to be doing us any good. We lose guys, seems like every day.
The Minnesota Twins, they have the lucky sausage, so to speak. 12 wins in a row. They're losing today 3-1 in the bottom of the 7th to Boston. I think Criswell was pitching for Boston today. But how do you explain what's going on with the Twins?
Definitely a soft schedule of late. They're actually going to lose. They were down 9-2 last I checked. The back of the bullpen gave up some runs. They got Jawan Duran back. That helped at the back of that bullpen. You had Griffin Jacks, who was pitching well for them. Johori Akala, who's been a prospect for them for ages. He's up. They can miss a lot of bats late in games. In the front of that rotation, you look at Bailey Ober, who had a terrible first start of the year, has been great since then. Joe Ryan, another guy, throws that low-angle fastball that looks like it's, we call it a rising fastball. Now they just call it IVB. Honestly, Marty, these baseball nerds, I don't know how you put up with them. But these are the guys the Twins have built. Talk about a team that, uses advanced technology, uses the latest information. You look at their starters in Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober. They're all examples of these guys that come from a low angle that makes the fastball look like it's rising. They've been very effective. Another team with a lot of injuries too. Buxton's been hurt. Lewis has been hurt.
Good analysis. Good analysis there. We get to see the Reds next weekend. They've got good pitching. Lodolo's pitching today. I haven't looked at the score to see what they're doing with the Orioles today, but we'll probably get him next weekend. Ellie Dela Cruz is in. But then you look at the offense, the numbers of the Reds, they're like last in the league in just about everything, except stolen bases.
Talk about the injuries again. They had Noelvi Marte got suspended at the start of the year. They're playing a lot of guys who are just marginal major leaguers. Santiago Espinal, Stuart Fairchild, just a lot of guys who aren't really good hitters. Jonathan India was supposed to be an utility guy for them. He's doing a lot of DHing. It's really Ellie Dela Cruz, a little bit from Will Benson, and not a whole lot else. It's a surprise because last year their offense was one of the really big stories. They're a much better pitching team. The bullpen's been pretty effective for them with Alexis Diaz at the back. They've got Fernando Cruz. Got knocked around the other night, but he's pretty good. It's surprising, but again, I think it's hard to judge some of these offenses, Marty, because of the overall environment. Everybody looks like they're struggling at the plate right now because the entire league's hitting 240 and not hitting any homers. So I am trying to figure out how much of what we're seeing is the league and how much of we're seeing is the teams themselves.
Got it. Boy, always great to have you on. I love it. In the gaming newsletter, you had a very good run there. And the last couple of days, a little bit of trouble, but that's part of it. I love the gaming newsletter where you make your picks every day. I love it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's a different way of looking at the game. Not everybody likes it, which is one of the reasons I do it as a separate thing. But it's fun to look at the night's game and say, how do I think the games are going to run? And approach it not just as here's my picks, but here's my thinking behind the picks.
Yeah, it's terrific. You love the bullpens, and I figured that out. You figure out who's got the best bullpen today, and that's the team that's got the edge, and that's a story of baseball today. Joe, great to have you on. I love it. Every couple of weeks we have you on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Marty. Take care.
Okay, JoeSheehan.com. Really, really good. All right, our Giants warm-up is coming up, and that means that JD is ready. JD, how are you today?
What's going on, Marty? Pleasure to be on with you here for a couple of minutes, talking a little baseball. It's a beautiful thing. I know we've done a lot of hours just throwing things back and forth in the press box over at Oracle Park over the years. So it's a pleasure to be on the radio with you, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's kind of a weird time, and just having Joe Sheehan on, and he's really good. He understands the trends of baseball. Offense is down. Now, the Giants are playing teams that seem to be hitting the ball better than they are. But in general, offense is down. Maybe we shouldn't be quite as panicked as we are about the ball club right now.
Yeah, it's always tough so early in the season. It's when to hit that panic button. And the Giants playing the Phillies hit. I mean, that's what they do. And they've got a lineup full of guys that can put it in the gap, that can put it over the wall. And so, I think the issue, though, with the Giants is the money that was spent on guys that were supposed to help that to this point haven't helped. And that was, that's where it's been, I think, the biggest issue. It's Lee, it's Soler, it's Chapman, even a guy like Murphy, who's on the IL now and got hurt last night. He was brought in to be a backup catcher that could hit lefties because over the last couple of years, he's pounded left-handed pitching. And that's the allure of having, somebody like him as a veteran behind Patrick Bailey. And really none of them, for the most part, have been able to get the job done. So I think that's the big disappointment. It looks different. I think that the Giants have a better manager. I love Melvin, but they've pitched really well. I think they like the back end of the bullpen, as you know. But, you got to hit because, as you talk about all the time, when you don't hit, you look low energy. And, you just look dead. And there's been too many games where the Giants look dead, and I think that's what gets people worried, even with months to go in a season.
Well, they're an older team. Let's face it, and the Dodgers are older, and they seem to hit the ball pretty well, but they have a nice blend of youth, really, with it. So the age is something that I worry about. And ultimately, Bob Melvin is the kind of manager, he sticks with his guys. And, J.D., you've seen him over the years, so have I. He's not a panicky guy. But maybe at some point you have to think down the road. Maybe Soler and Conforto become DHs. One's lefty, one's righty. Maybe that happens. Maybe Matos, maybe Ramos, maybe Luciano gets up here. Maybe Ahmed needs a break. There is going to be some point where the age of this team is going to catch up a little bit, and that's where they're going to have to get these guys ready from Sacramento. That's what I see coming.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that the Giants have been patient in not making those moves to this point. And, I mean, reporters were asking the questions, 10 games into the season. I go back to the National Series. It was the second home series, and I'm down in the dugout pregame on that Monday afternoon, and they didn't hit that first weekend, even though they took 2 out of 3 against the Padres in the first 3 games at home. And people are, are you going to make some lineup changes? And Yaz wasn't looking great early and all of that. And Melvin said, it's going to be a while. And he was just blunt and to the point and said, it's going to be a while. I think the other reason you wait is because what happens, and I know there's some of the names you mentioned are hitting in Sacramento, but I think the concern is, and this is the concern for Farhan Zaidi, if you go to those guys too soon, even when they're hot, and then they come up to the majors and they don't hit, and it's May 15th, well, then what do you have? And you're starting to get behind the 8 ball a little bit in the standings. Fortunately for the Giants, they haven't yet. So I think picking the right time to go to the youth when you have the youth is always really, really important. I know a lot of the Giants fans, it's beyond that time, but I do think we're getting closer to it, and a lot of those guys that you mentioned are going to play a big role on this year's team regardless of how things shake out. Yeah, no, I'm with you on this completely. If it's Yastrzemski, Slater, I said you got to play Slater occasionally, because there's only a 4-man bench. You can't sit all the time. You got to get Flores in there occasionally, maybe split time with Wade, of course, what he's doing. Maybe get him in there for Soler or get him at third. Yeah, he can hit right or left, too. So get him in for Chapman. Look, he just Chapman hits. Get him in there. Yeah, but the point is, I think Logan Webb goes today. Their starting pitching is still exemplary. They need Snell big time. He will be back. And they just have to let this thing settle down a little bit because these guys do have a track record. And it's just a cycle right now where they're not hitting. So that's how I feel about it. What do you think about tomorrow? Jeffries is up today. Is he there for tomorrow with Jelly, perhaps? What do you think? Yeah, I saw the report. Shayna Rubin had noted the fact that Mason Black is in Philadelphia on the taxi squad. So to me, that's an indicator that he's going to be the guy who starts tomorrow. I think Dalton Jeffries is there, and Dalton Jeffries was recalled. So I think Jeffries is the guy who's there as the extra arm today. They DFA'd Mitch White, so he goes out after he took the brunt, him and Keaton Wynn in those first 2 innings last night. So I think Jeffries is the long man, and I think Mason Black is there to start tomorrow. And if I had to bet, Dalton Jeffries is the guy who gets DFA'd tomorrow for Mason Black. They didn't put Murphy on the 60, just a knee sprain. So they used Mitch White to get Reitz on the roster because they need the backup catcher. And I wouldn't be surprised, Marty, if Jeffries is the guy who goes. He could clear waivers. You could put him back in Sacramento, let him work through. Great story with the multiple arm injuries and the surgeries and everything coming back and all that. But right now he's just Unfortunately, he's just not a major league pitcher right now. You got to have somebody as your long man. You're hoping you don't need him with Logan Webb, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's trending that way with Black being in Philly. Why else do you bring him to Philly, put him on the taxi squad if he's not going to be the guy who's going to be in line tomorrow?
I like the way you think, JD. I like the way you think. You have transferred from basketball to baseball seamlessly. I like this. Very good. I like it.
I appreciate it. I get, we all get typecast, right? I mean, you're a baseball guy, longtime baseball guy. It's worked out well for you, but I love talking baseball. I love obviously talking NBA and NFL. But a lot of people don't know that I do love watching and talking baseball.
We have talked for hours and hours in the press box about baseball. So we're just getting started. But, yeah, you know your stuff. It was a good transition. I think you may be right about tomorrow. That's a good analysis. So enjoy the show today. Enjoy it. Let's hope Logan Webb gives some innings, and then it's off to Colorado. And you get home, you always feel better at least getting home.
Yeah, definitely. And look, this is the time, to get today with Webb. And I know everybody's been beating up on the Rockies, so maybe that'll get the bats going. They're going to be facing some lefties, not today, but over the next couple of days after today before they get home. So maybe that gets some of the right-handed bats going a little bit. And, you're only one good series away from feeling better about how everything sits. And they're not getting buried. That's the big thing. Even at 15 and 19, they're kind of on the fringe, but they're not getting buried, Marty.
No, there's a long way to go. We're only in May. We won't even remember this conversation when we get to August. All right. JD, Great to talk with you. Always a pleasure. Enjoy the show today, and I'll see you next weekend.
Thanks, Marty. Looking forward to it.
All right, our Giants warm-up coming up right now. J.D. Dickinson takes over right here, KNBR 680, 104.5. I'll be at 58 Social next Saturday, back at the Public House, the old Public House, so to speak. More coming up on KNBR 680, 104.5.
It is Giants warm-up here on KNBR. It's John Dickinson with you here as we get you closer to first pitch. It's the Giants and the Philadelphia Phillies coming up from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. The Giants at 15 and 19, going up against a Phillies club that's taken the first two of this wraparound four-game series against the San Francisco Giants. They are 23 and 11, and as things currently sit right now, that is the best record in the major leagues, 23 and 11. The Philadelphia Phillies, third game of the four-game set. 808 KNBR is the number if you do want to join the conversation here as we roll here for about the next hour. We get you to Giants pregame and then to first pitch, which is scheduled for 4:10 Pacific. Sunday Night Baseball, the Giants and the Phillies. So, yeah, if you want to give me a call or shoot me a text, 808 KNBR. We can keep this thing interactive here on what has turned out to be, at least in the Bay Area, a glorious Sunday afternoon. 808 KNBR as you can join the conversation. 415-808-5627. Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open. It has been raining throughout the day in Philadelphia as the Giants look to get back at it, but the rain clearing, and the Giants and Phillies looks like they're going to get this one in even without a delay like the one that we saw last night. A little bit of breaking news here right off the top of the show as Bob Melvin is having his pregame availability with reporters in Philadelphia out in the dugout at Citizens Bank Park, and Shayna Rubin of the San Francisco Chronicle. Yeah, play that sounder. Raph, the great Raph Corral in our San Francisco studios. And we're just talking about this with Marty Lurie in the crossover segment there. the face-off, and Mason Black gonna start tomorrow per Bob Melvin. So that erases all of the mystery as to what the Giants are going to do, and it just makes a lot of sense. And I think really you could look back at the last couple of times, and this Blake Snell spot in the Giants rotation has really just wrecked things for San Francisco. 0-3 in Blake Snell's 3 starts, and then Jeffries has had to make a start. Dalton Jeffries, who's back with the club, will get you those roster moves that are on tap for the Giants as they lead into this afternoon's ball game in Philadelphia. But Blake Snell 0-3 in his first 3 starts before landing on the injured list. Dalton Jeffries had to make that start on Easter Sunday in San Diego, where it was just nothing but trouble right from the jump. Ryan Walker and Eric Miller as openers have made a couple of starts as well, and the Giants are 0-6. 0-6 in the slots here these first 7 times through the rotation. They've skipped it once and moved Logan Webb up one time to be able to pitch on normal rest. But 0-6 are the Giants in those games, 15-13 in the other games. So the Blake Snell spot in the rotation, whether it's been openers, and you can't really go openers after the length that the bullpen had to go in the game last night, and has had to go with potentially with games in Colorado coming up and wrapping up this series against a Phillies team that really can hit. So Mason Black gets the start tomorrow per Bob Melvin, and I had a sneaking suspicion that it was going to be Mason Black when I saw the news from the reporters on the scene there in Philadelphia that Mason Black was in Philadelphia, officially on the taxi squad. That the ultimate indicator that he would be the guy who would start tomorrow in the series finale. Another afternoon game here on the West Coast, 1:05 first pitch in the series finale tomorrow. Of course, you can hear that each and every Giants ball game right here on KNBR, the sports leader. So Logan Webb going tonight in this one as the Giants, we mentioned 15-19. Phillies come in at 23-11. It's Logan Webb against Taijuan Walker of the Phillies. Walker making his second start for Philadelphia. He gave up 6 earned runs and 6 1/3 in San Diego last week, but got the win. Got the win because the Phillies hit. It was a game that Philadelphia was able to be victorious in, and he's making his first home start of the season. And he's somebody that the Giants in the past have touched up a little bit. Again, Giants down 0-2 in this 4-game set to the Phillies, trying to get back on track. Game 3 of the 4-game set. 1-4 in the first 4 games of this road trip, which does project to be the longest road trip of the season. Giants escaping Boston with a 1-2, and then 0-2 so far in Philadelphia. The Giants have tomorrow's game in addition to tonight's, and then 3 games set at Coors Field in Colorado. The Giants also, things not trending in the right direction, a season low watermark, 4 games under 500. The Giants had built their way all the way back up to almost getting right back to the 500 mark a week ago last night. They took that extra inning loss to the Pirates, and it's kind of been downhill since. The Giants able to win the series finale against the Pirates, but then the first 2, as we talked about, in Boston, those go in the loss column, and then dropping the first 2 against Philadelphia as well. So Logan Webb going for San Francisco against Taijuan Walker. Big-time stop job needed for the Giants, and Logan Webb, who is going to be on the mound for San Francisco. Logan Webb on the season for the Giants, as we'll look back at last night's game. But, Logan Webb 3-2 with a 2.98 ERA for Logan Webb in the early going of this season, as he'll be making his 8th start of the season. The Giants are 4-3 in his first 7 starts of the season, and he is 3-2 overall. Did get touched up a little bit in his last game in Boston, one of 2 outings where Webb has not pitched well. Despite that outing, though, Webb still a 1.93 ERA over the last 5 outings. That goes back to April the 7th, and kind of looking at Logan Webb's game log and everything that he's had over the course of that first home start of the year for Logan Webb. He gave up a couple of earnings in the opening day game at San Diego, and then got touched up a little bit, kind of nickel and dimed really in both starts that he struggled. Both starts that he struggled coming against some pretty good teams at Dodger Stadium and at Fenway against the Red Sox in his last outing on Tuesday, as he makes his second start of the trip for the Giants. But yeah, you look at Logan Webb. Prior to that, he had been lights out before the 4 earnings that he allowed in Boston. 8 shutout innings against the Mets. He had the long streak, 7 shutout innings against Arizona, and then the 1 inning or the 1 run allowed in 7 innings against Tampa Bay, 2 in 7 innings against San Diego. So Webb had been on a heater over a 4-start span before the game in Boston, and the Giants are going to need a big-time stopper job from Logan Webb in this one. The Giants haven't been hitting. Everybody knows the story. 4 runs since April the 23rd. Haven't scored 4 in any game since April the 23rd. That's 9 consecutive games. It looked like maybe they would do it last night as they got throttled 14-3 last night by the Phillies. Giants with Blake Sable in the lineup. They lose Tom Murphy last night due to the knee injury. Murphy telling reporters that he felt something pop blocking a ball in the second inning. The imaging come today, and some good news, I think, all things considered, on Tom Murphy as he goes on the 10-day IL with what the Giants are calling a left knee sprain. So the Giants having to make a bunch of roster moves here as far as this thing goes to get a backup catcher. Blake Sable, as tough stuff when you lose your starting catcher and your backup catcher on back-to-back days, and all of a sudden you're going with who had been the starting catcher in Sacramento and the backup catcher in Sacramento right in the middle of a lengthy road trip. So Murphy goes on the 10-day injured list, left knee sprain. And again, I think the Giants are fortunate at this point that it's not worse than that, considering the fact that he did tell reporters that he felt a pop. Why were they playing that game? That's another thing we can get into here between now and the start of this one. Really some unfortunate timing as far as the start of that game, and then the rain just started getting worse as it continued over those first 3 innings, really. But Keaton Wynn clearly was uncomfortable. You got Murphy who's trying to block a ball. He was visibly frustrated in the dugout with sustaining an injury in a situation where I think a lot of people were thinking, hey, why can't you wait this thing out a little bit longer? The rain did clear, but it seemed as if they didn't want to get too deep into the night before starting the game in Philadelphia with a big crowd on hand there. But then things did clear up, and also the Giants having still 2 more days to play in Philadelphia today, potentially, with the night game scheduled on Sunday Night Baseball against the Phillies, and then the afternoon game tomorrow. And I know the afternoon game is obviously getaway day for travel, getting back toward the West Coast and stopping in Denver for that 3-game series. But to me, there were a couple of different options to postpone that game and play a doubleheader today. You see that from time to time, even with a Sunday Night Baseball game. Maybe you get a 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific game, and then a 7 o'clock or 7:10 Eastern, 4:10 Pacific first pitch for Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. But they did not want to do that. Clearly the Giants seemed affected by the weather last night. The Phillies weren't affected offensively, defensively, and the like. But, Murphy injured in that one, the left knee sprain. Again, I think the Giants fortunate that it wasn't worse than that. So Jackson Reitz gets selected from AAA Sacramento. Giants needed to clear a spot for him on the 40-man. Mitch White designated for assignment. He came on in relief of Keaton Wynn last night after Wynn just went the first 2/3 of an inning of that one. And Dalton Jeffries comes up, recalled from Sacramento. He's the extra arm to take the spot of Mitch White, already on the 40-man roster, who took the brunt last night. And again, with Bob Melvin making it official that Mason Black, who is in Philly, is going to be on the taxi squad and will make the start tomorrow in the series finale against the Phillies. You look at that, and I think the Giants can go a number of different directions on it, but I think it stands to reason that Dalton Jeffries is the long man tonight and may not be long for the Giants' 40-man roster tomorrow. As again, could be another option to be made. But looking at the Giants' 40-man roster, it seems like the easiest spot to maybe get somebody DFA'd and through waivers and maybe on a regular assignment to Sacramento would be Dalton Jeffries, who's really struggled in his limited opportunities when he's pitched for the Giants this season. So we'll take a look back at last night's game in Philadelphia. We'll look ahead toward this one. It is Giants warm-up. As we get you closer to first pitch, it's the Giants and the Phillies. It's John Dickinson here, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
An elimination game for the Phillies to win the World Series, and they got a heavy rain. Now Wilmer hits a high fly ball into deep left. Back goes Marsh at the warning track, at the wall. Adios, pelota. Wilmer Flores hits one into the seats, his first home run of the year, out into left center field.
All right, John Dickinson with you. Giants warm up. The 2-run shot. Wilmer Flores, 5th inning. That was the 150th home run of Wilmer Flores' career, but still a 9th consecutive game with the Giants scoring less than 4 runs. Looked like middle of the game, sitting on 3, might get to it, but alas, the Giants get thumped in Philly, 14-3, the final there. As we welcome you back, it is the Giants warm-up here on KNBR, the sports leader. John Dickinson with you. Wilmer Flores in the lineup for San Francisco, and this one will get you the starting lineups. Is Wilmer hitting 3rd for the Giants as they take on the Phillies. It's Logan Webb and Taijuan Walker going at it in this one, as the Giants look to get off the schneid a little bit following that 14-3 loss to the Phillies last night. 808 KNBR will recap last night's game a little bit and also just get some thoughts on just why the Giants are in this unfortunate position in the early going of this season as far as sitting there at 15-19, the low water mark of the season to this point. But 808 KNBR, let's get Andrea in here on the Sports Leader. Hello, Andrea. How are you?
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I enjoyed being on your show last week, and I wanted to follow up. I did Blake Snell's sports astrology, and I thought it might be helpful to share that for Giants fans in terms of having them manage their expectations.
Okay. Well, what do you got on Blake Snell as far as his chart goes?
Yeah.
I'm looking at Snell here. He is
December 4.
When is his birthday?
December 4, 1992.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an optimistic Sagittarius, but here's the thing. This is rewarding a player based on past performance and not looking at future performance, which is what sports astrology does. So that said, he's having a Saturn transit, John, and that is ruling the skeletal system, bones, knees, teeth, joint, back. So that can really be challenging on and off through this season. And he's also having Uranus oppose Mercury, which is an important planet for a pitcher, rules communication. And Uranus is like expect the unexpected. Basically, it's a very erratic year for him, kind of unpredictable. So I think Giants fans shouldn't be like, oh, good, we'll get our number 5 slot, we'll get our starter back, everything will be okay. I think we need to make some alternative plans. I have a colleague that wrote a blog, I think he called it Blake Snell's Bad Transit. So I'm trying to be a little more optimistic. But that said, I really think that we should manage our expectations or, quite frankly, see what our other options may be.
Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate it. That's not. I was hoping for a little optimism for Andrea. I appreciate the call because the Giants need Snell to come back and pitch like a Cy Young Award winner. Pitch like the guy that's been a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. That spot in the rotation, as we talked about in the opening segment here at Giants Warm-Up, is just wrecked. San Francisco to this point of the season. 0-6 in the starts that Snell or guys that have had to pitch because the Giants signed Snell late or since Snell has been on the injured list. And that, the Giants have been a solid team in those other games. Obviously going to have to be hoping for the best once Blake Snell can get back out there. Mason Black to get the start tomorrow. This afternoon it'll be Logan Webb against Taijuan Walker in Citizens Bank Park as Logan Webb coming in to this one 3-2 with a 2.98 ERA. As Webb makes his 8th start of the year. Giants 4-3. He's been spectacular in 5 of the first 7 starts. All right, let's recap the 14-3 loss to the Phillies a little bit. Unfortunate circumstances in the weather. Still don't understand why they didn't wait a little bit longer to either start that game or just postpone it altogether with the options to play either this afternoon or potentially a doubleheader, although nobody wants to play a doubleheader on the travel day when you got to go to Colorado. So I think even the Giants would probably say, no, we don't want to play that game on Monday. But, Keaton Winn had been really good. Not last night. No command. Couldn't control the split. Couldn't control the baseball. Just 2 1/3 innings, 39 pitches. Tom Murphy with the pop in his knee. We talked about that. He goes on the IL with the knee sprain, and so they lose him and Patrick Bailey on back-to-back days. Keaton Winn did say post-game he had trouble gripping his splitter. He had back-to-back walks right off the jump, bases loaded, hit by pitch for a run, then Marsh singled in a run, then a double play turned into a third run, followed by a hard-hit ground ball that Estrada couldn't get to, and it was 4-0 Phillies right there. 39 pitches. He's done. Mitch White in the game, and it's 5-0, and the Phillies add 4 more in the second. 9-0 after 2, game over. Wilmer Flores in the 5th, his 150th home run of his career, played that John Miller call coming back here from the break. Randy Rodriguez, a bright spot for the Giants. In his debut, as he came in relief of White, and the right-hander Randy Rodriguez, 5th pitcher to debut this season out of the Giants bullpen, and he got his first career strikeout against Bryce Harper. That's a pretty cool story, something that Randy Rodriguez has to be pretty happy about. And, you look at Randy Rodriguez, and he's somebody who's electric. And, the Giants, I think, are still trying to sort through the length in their bullpen. They obviously love Duvall at the back end, and the Rogers brothers and Ryan Walker's been really good. I think they like Luke Jackson, but the other bridge-type relievers in the middle innings, Randy Rodriguez throws his name right into that hat. Eric Miller's been seemingly a fine. Jelly looked good in his last outing. So what do the Giants do there? Avila and Roop were kind of up and down in their first stints with San Francisco. So still trying to figure out the right-handed relief that's not those final couple of pitchers that you're going to be your plus relievers that the Giants are hoping, obviously, that they'll get into the game, meaning they have a lead back of Logan Webb in this one. But a good night for Randy Rodriguez. And when you lose the game the way the Giants lost on Friday, or Saturday rather, it makes Friday stand out. It makes Friday really stand out, and the 4-3 loss and the inability to add on in a game where you had the early lead. Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler, and they had chances to kind of break the game open and give the Giants a little bit of breathing room, unable to do it. And it winds up all adding up to a 4-3 loss, and it leads now back to the Giants needing a big-time Logan Webb stop job. And with all the questions now answered as to who's going to start tomorrow, as it will be Mason Black, and the Giants making the roster moves. But, it just, the game you needed to get of the first 2 of this series was the game where you had the 2-0 lead and had the ability to be able to move on, and the Giants unable to do that. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627. We'll come back. We'll reset the pitching matchup in this one. We'll also get you the lineups. We've got a standings update coming your way, as well as the Giants and Phillies get closer to first pitch from South Philadelphia. You will hear it all right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Here it comes. Strike three called, a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And there was no question about that one. That was right in the strike zone. A few inches above the knees, right over the middle.
How about that in your big league debut? Facing Bryce Harper. And you throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball to get him looking for strike three. A moment like that will make you feel like you belong here.
Certainly his line didn't indicate how well he pitched for us, and he's basically been a one-inning guy, to give us a little bit more than two, and then, in the last inning it got a little, the numbers got a little skewed. But based on what we saw in spring training, what we saw tonight, completely different guy. I thought he pitched well.
Yeah, Randy Rodriguez, one of the bright spots in a tough Game 2 of this 4-game series, Giants and the Phillies, Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. 4:10 first pitch. It's Logan Webb against Taijuan Walker, as Webb making his 8th start of the season for the Giants, 4-3 San Francisco in the first 7. Webb's been really good in 5 of those 7. He comes in with a 3-2 record on his own and a 2.98 earned run average. The Giants as a team, 58-40 in Webb's 98 regular season starts going back to the beginning of the 2021 season. The Giants under 500 in Webb starts last year, back over 500 in his starts this year, although you look at Webb being great in 5 of those first 7. I think you'd hope that you'd be a little bit better than 4-3, but part of that, the fact that the Giants still have struggled to hit the baseball and unable to score 4 runs going back now over 9 consecutive games since April the 23rd, as Logan Webb trying to be the stopper for the Giants in a big-time way, not only with the series finale tomorrow and Mason Black making his debut against the Phillies in that one, but then on to Colorado in 3 games where Logan Webb's not going to pitch in any of those 3 games, and everybody's been beating up on the Rockies. Giants hoping that'll get the bats going for them, but you still got to be able to pitch through Coors Field, and that'll be something that'll be on the plate of Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison and Keaton Winn on the back end before the Giants come home to take on the Reds, Dodgers, and then those Colorado Rockies again. A couple of more notes here on Logan Webb. Logan Webb, the first strike percentage for Logan Webb through the first 7 starts, right around 70%. Overall, 66.9, but he was at 69.9 before the Boston start, and Webb didn't get the ball in the zone on the first pitch in that game against Boston. Got behind, and only a 45.5% first pitch strike percentage, which was the lowest in a couple of years for Logan Webb. So getting out in front, and then, of course, as always, getting the ball on the ground for Logan Webb is important. All those ground ball outs, Logan Webb leading the majors last year in ground ball rate, and the Giants have a couple of guys that are leading among the league leaders in terms of ground ball rate as far as their starting pitchers go in the rotation. So getting the ball on the ground, always a big-time deal for Logan Webb, who in his games against Philadelphia, he's pitched well. A couple of times, the Giants have won both of his games in Philadelphia, and we'll see. It's about the sinker and the changeup for Logan Webb, as always. So despite scuffling in his last outing, still the Giants hoping they can get a big-time stop job from their ace and get him back on the winning track and avoid what would be, with the loss, a new season low watermark if the Giants drop this one tonight, 5 games under the 500 mark. How did the Giants get here in this position where it feels like it's still early, but the returns have not been there at the level that you want them to be for San Francisco at this particular point? And unfortunately, it really does hinge on the free agent signings that to this point haven't worked out. And again, long season. Raph was telling me, in the Marty Lurie tone, 128 to go. A long way to go. But really, I think the disappointment, unfortunately, for a lot of Giants fans to this point is that this team has looked a little too much from a hitting standpoint like the team that we've all seen here over the course of the last 2 years in 2022 and 2023. Only now with a better manager and Bob Melvin, right? It was supposed to be able to come in and more money spent and more money invested in this Giants roster with veteran players that were supposed to come in and help to carry the freight, and that just hasn't happened. And you look up and down at this thing and the lineup, and we'll get you the lineup for today, but you look at the guys that were brought in, and Jung-Hoo Lee, 6 years, $113 million, and to this point, again, a long way to go, but to this point, 246, 2 home runs, 7 driven in. He's got a 620 OPS. He's only getting on base at a 302 clip. He scored 13 runs, but hasn't scored a run in almost 2 weeks. I know the hard hit rate says he should be better than that, and he had a couple of balls at Fenway that could have been home runs, if not doubles or triples. But, Jung-Hoo Lee, for as much as he is an igniter, and as much when he does get on base and when he does find some of that hard hit rate with balls hitting the grass in the outfield, he's an electrifying player to watch. But you look at the overall numbers to this point, and they haven't been what 6 years and $113 million would say that they should and need to be. Again, long way to go to be able to sort through it. Jorge Soler has just, 3 years, $42 million, and it's 205 with 5 bombs and 8 driven in and a 655 OPS. It's just, this is a guy who was supposed to be hitting doubles and supposed to be hitting the ball over the wall, and the killer for Soler has been the 3 for 25 with runners in scoring position. That's been what, and it's been even worse than that. I think 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. But he's been the guy who's been in position to come up with some big hits that may have turned some of these losses into wins had he been able to come up with a hit, or had he been able to come up with a home run in some of these key junctures. But you look at it, and Jorge Soler at a point where he's been disappointing, and again, the guy that was brought in to be that first 30 home run hitter in forever, and to add that right-handed pop that projects to play so well, in particular even at Oracle Park. So Soler to this point hasn't quite worked out. Matt Chapman, 3 years and $54 million. And again, I don't think the Soler or the Chapman deals are crazy money, but Chapman got off at a couple of homers early. He's still driven in 14, but you look at that OPS again, just a 638 OPS. He's still, for the most part, a couple of nights ago, notwithstanding, playing clean with the glove, but he's had trouble with the fastball, which is something that if you looked at some of the analytics and the trends over the last couple of years, and his time even with Toronto, hitting the fastball's been problematic for Matt Chapman. So, it has been to this point with San Francisco. So the carriers, the projected carriers, have not been carriers to this point. The guys that the Giants went out and signed, the guys that we all thought they should go out and sign and needed to go out and sign and had to go out and sign, it just hasn't been there for Jung-Hoo Lee or Jorge Soler or Matt Chapman to this point. And I'll even throw Tom Murphy in there, who lands on the injured list with that left knee sprain. 2 years and $8.25 million for a backup catcher, and he's 4 for 34 before getting injured last night with a 118 average and a 1 homer and 2 runs driven in. He was brought in to be the backup, and he was brought in to do something that he's done for the most part in his career, which is crush left-handed pitching. And now he's hurt, and Joey Bart is gone. And Joey Bart got off to a great start, but there is just this little hint of the Giants go out and do things that have been a little out of character for them in terms of some of these moves, and they get some people finally at the back end of free agency and spring training and all of that to take their money. And these guys that take their money and then it doesn't work out. And Murphy directly led to, despite having another good spring, and look, Joey Bart's had springs that didn't translate into much in the regular season, but Joey Bart ends up being the odd one out, and that's fine. He hadn't performed despite being the number 2 overall pick in the draft going back to 2018. But he ends up gone as the guy that was on the opening day roster as a third catcher, basically, to try and protect an option to get him, to maybe be able to sneak him through and keep him within the organization. He ends up going. He got off to a relatively hot start. I think he had a couple of home runs in his first 2 or 3 games. Did hit a homer in his first game with the Pirates. He's 7 for 34. Like Murphy's 4 for 34, Bart's 7 for 34, but Bart does have 3 driven in. I'm sorry, 3 home runs and 7 driven in. And so, the Giants are kind of snake bitten right now in terms of the moves that they make wind up almost working to, in some ways, the worst possible outcome, right? Murphy ends up struggling and hurt, leads to Bart's departure, and then Bart goes to Pittsburgh and immediately produces at a level that, at least for the first couple of games, it's flattened out. I mean, Bart's hitting 206, so it's not like it's not like Bart's crushing it, and Bart's a backup catcher still himself. But even that, the optics of it on a low-level scale don't look great. And then you got Blake Snell. And, the 2 years and $62 million from Blake Snell and the Blake Snell spot in the Giants rotation. And some of this is on the Giants because they signed him late, knowing that he was going to take some time to be ready. Then he winds up banged up. He's notoriously been a slow starter throughout the course of his career. And the Giants are getting bit by all of that. 0-3 for Snell in his first 3 starts. And because the Giants signed him late, it's led to Dalton Jeffries and bullpen games and all these different things. It basically, in the first 7 turns through the rotation, they skipped 1 and have had 6 times where they've needed a 5th or flip-flop. Tomorrow, Webb will make the 8th start, and then they'll have the 7th turn through on Snell's spot tomorrow, which will go to Mason Black. But between everybody that's had those starts, from Dalton Jeffries to Tyler to Ryan Walker to Eric Miller, it's 0-6. And again, you can't necessarily blame Snell for anything other than the 3, but that spot, for what the Giants have spent on that spot, is not what you need. At 2 and 62, and somebody that was brought in to potentially be an ace. I think the Giants are hoping they're, at worst 3-3, if not 4-2, in the 6 turns through the rotation in the Blake Snell spot. And if they're 4-2 or 3, hell, if they're even just 3-3, they're 18-16 right now, and we're having a completely different conversation, despite the fact that the Giants can't score 4 runs for the better part of the last 2 weeks. But all in all, Jung-Hoo Lee, Jorge Soler, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, to a lesser extent Tom Murphy, those are the players that are going to have to come through for San Francisco in a big-time way if they're going to be able to get this thing turned around, because this team has been able to pitch from a starting rotation standpoint, and the back end of the bullpen has been good enough. But the offense, for the most part, plus Blake Snell, have been the issues for this team and why they are in the position that they are, sitting at 15-19, and a lot of people hitting the panic button, and you're going up against the Phillies a couple of more times, who are leading the majors right now at 23 up and 11 down. So work to be done for San Francisco. It all starts and continues this afternoon with the Giants in Philadelphia. All right, let's go ahead and pause here We'll go ahead and come back. It is Giants warm-up. We'll get you a deeper dive into the starting lineups. We've also got a standings update with 1:28 to go. As it is Giants warm-up with John Dickinson here, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. All right, John Dickinson back in the Bay Area. Giants and Phillies coming up here on the sports leader, Logan Webb against Taijuan Walker. Webb making start number 8, 3-2 with a 2.98 as the Giants trying to get back on track in Philadelphia. 1-4 on this road trip with 2 games to go in Philly, 3 more to come in Colorado. And the Giants, again, trying to get their first win of this series against the Phillies. Taijuan Walker gave up 6 in 6 1/3 at San Diego last week. His first start of the season for the Phillies. As you look at Taijuan Walker in that one, he had a shoulder impingement, which had kept him out up until that first outing of the season. So Taijuan Walker going up against the Giants on Sunday Night Baseball. Some roster moves for San Francisco. Tom Murphy placed on the 10-day injured list with a left knee sprain. Mitch White designated for assignment, the reliever that the Giants had just picked up on waivers. That move to get him off the 40-man because the Giants needed a backup catcher. Now down not only Patrick Bailey, but also Tom Murphy. Murphy with that knee sprain. And Jackson Reitz had his contract selected from AAA Sacramento. Dalton Jeffries is back as he comes up in the Murphy spot, but he's really taken Mitch White's spot in the Giants' bullpen. And we know that for a fact because Bob Melvin told reporters on the scene, boots on the ground in Philadelphia, that Mason Black will make the start for the Giants tomorrow. He is in Philadelphia. The local guy from the Philadelphia, Scranton, I guess, area, so Pennsylvania, and the East Coast there, and he's going to make his debut against the Phillies tomorrow, afternoon affair in the wraparound, Game 4 of the 4-game series, Giants and the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park coming up. Let's get you a deeper dive here into the starting lineups for this one. The Giants against the righty, Taijuan Walker, Jung-Hoo Lee leading off in center field, Lamont Wade Jr., with a lot of the regulars in for San Francisco against the righty Taijuan Walker. Lamont Wade, he is batting second and playing first base. Wilmer Flores, fresh off the home run last night, was talking about this with Marty Lurie in our face-off segment just about an hour ago as Talking Baseball ended and we flipped into Giants warm-up. How do you get Wilmer Flores more at-bats? I know that's been a big-time discussion here because Flores is not a platoon-only guy just going to face left-handed pitching. He can hit righties, he can hit lefties, and the Giants have to figure out ways to get him more into the mix. And Wilmer Flores is not only in the lineup, but he's batting third and is the designated hitter. So Jorge Soler out of the Giants lineup, which I find to be surprising in looking at it because I was looking at Soler, and I want to make sure I've got this right here. Soler not in the lineup in this one. And so, I wanted to make sure I got it right because Soler was somebody that had a little bit of success in his career against Taijuan Walker. So, I think a home run and 3 for 9 and 9 career at-bats against Taijuan Walker. So Flores as the DH. Conforto bats fourth and is in left field. Conforto, career .883 OPS with 20 doubles and 23 home runs, 73 driven in 102 games. He's played in Citizens Bank Park a lot, predominantly with the Mets. And that's the third most among active players, the 73 driven in. Third most among active players against the Phillies. Freddie Freeman and Marcell Ozuna, number 1 and number 2 against the Phillies in terms of runs driven in. So Conforto in the cleanup spot, Matt Chapman playing third base, Mike Yastrzemski in right field. He bats sixth. Thairo Estrada, somebody who's swinging the bat better in the first couple of games of this series and has been swinging the bat better over the last couple of weeks after really getting off to a slow start there. Thairo Estrada batting seventh, which is surprising. I know we had a text in the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line about that. Estrada seventh. Blake Sable, he's going to catch. Him and Jackson Reitz, probably a straight platoon at this point until Patrick Bailey's back. Sable got a couple of hits last night, and then Nick Ahmed is batting ninth and playing shortstop. For the Phillies, Kyle Schwarber leads off, 8 home runs, 21 driven in, JT Realmuto, the catcher, 5 homers and 14 driven in. Bryce Harper playing first base, 6 homers and 18 driven in. I mean, the Phillies are just they got guys everywhere that drive the ball, hit it out of the ballpark. Alec Baum, that was the question, Marty Lurie. Would he be in there? As he was dealing with a little bit of an injury that caused him to leave last night's game early. But he is back and in the lineup for the Phillies in the cleanup spot. Brandon Marsh, left field. He bats 5th. Castellanos, 6th. Stott is playing second base and batting 7th. Sosa playing shortstop with the injury to Trey Turner. And then Rojas in center field. So the 8-9 spots, it gets a little thin, but a bunch of guys doing a lot of the production for the Philadelphia Phillies at the top of that lineup, including Kyle Schwarber and Realmuto and Harper and Baum, who is who is in the lineup after leaving last night's game early. So those are your starting lineups. Let's get you a standings update, which is sponsored by the Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. Our final couple of minutes here, our Giants warm-up with John Dickinson here on KNBR, the sports leader, and just looking at the standings, getting everything updated as much through a lot of the early games on the East Coast, which are all complete. There's a couple of Western games right now in Oakland and Arizona and at Dodger Stadium that are ongoing. The Nationals have just beaten Toronto 11-8. In the nation's capital. But looking at the standings update here for San Francisco, they sit at 15-19. The Dodgers suddenly are hot. They've won 3 in a row and 8 of the last 10. And the Dodgers are up 5-1 on Atlanta right now in the 8th inning at Dodger Stadium. So they're looking to get another win. Dodgers at 22-13, soon to be 23-13. And the Giants 6.5 back of the Dodgers in the National League West. The Padres are up to 18-18, so the Giants a couple of games back of the Padres. Arizona right now leading the Padres, that game in the mid-innings down in the desert. But the Giants, we talked about this with Marty, not getting buried, but I think are at a point where they are teetering, the Giants, among the teams with the lowest run differentials, at least in the National League. I mean, everybody's beating up on the Rockies and the Marlins at minus 77 coming into the day today. The Cardinals equaling the Giants at 15-19, minus 32 in terms of differential. The Giants have had a lot of blowout losses, some close wins. They're a minus 35 coming into today, but the Giants not getting buried as far as the wild card race goes, at least not as of yet. The Giants just 2 games back of that third and final wild card spot. Again, probably a little bit early to talk about it too extensively, but you don't want a 15-19 to bury you. And fortunately for the Giants, it has not at this point in time with Logan Webb on the mound in Philadelphia. They are just 2 games back, albeit with Pittsburgh, New York, Cincinnati, and Washington in between them and the Padres, who currently have that final spot right now sitting at 18-18. But they look like they're probably going to get beat in Arizona down 11-4. So a potential for the Giants to close the gap there here in the early going of this season. All right, that'll do it for me. As far as the Giants warm-up portion of the proceedings, we'll get you the Giants pregame, which is all coming up right here. Giants and the Phillies from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. It's coming up. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.